Yo. Everyone, and welcome to an anime fanfic for you. We're back with another part of What If Issei got betrayed and become the red and white dragon emperor god of Ashikabi. But before we start, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more awesome contents. Now, let's start to part 3. DxD World. In the world of Draconic Deus, known as DxD. In office and Grigory Azazel looked at Issei and everything that was happening, being happy to see him surrounded by so many girls, that from what he has been spying on, he noticed how they really love Issei, but for the others, it was not happiness for all the members of the Grimoire entourage. Valí's team, Ravel Phoenix, Seraphol among others entered into a strong depression, since they had not known anything about Issei for weeks. Everyone did their part in the search except for Heaven, Asgard and Grigory, who did not do anything. Support but the former Archangel of Justice Azazel shared a little of Issei's new adventures with the leaders of these factions, who never judged a boy only being able to wish him happiness. Auden. Looks like the brat still has the touch. Said while scratching his beard. Michael. I'm happy for Issei-kun. Said with a smile. Azazel. Yes, my little one always surprises me. Said while looking at the phone projection. Auden. Aren't you going to visit him? Said a little curious without noticing that one of those who were supposed to be in love with Issei was passing by listening to their conversation. Azazel. I won't, it's better that I only see it from afar. Said so the spy hurried to tell everyone what she had discovered. MBI building. Takami. Understood. Said while holding up his phone. The rewriting of the surveillance satellite system, as well as the deployment of personnel, seems to have been completed. He said and Manaka laughed pleased. Manaka. Yufufufu, finally. Said very amused. Takami. Do you even know what you're doing? Said somewhat angrily. Manaka. What are you afraid of, Takami-kun? Said looking at the woman. Takami. I'm not afraid of anything. She said simply. I'm just married to this. She said and Manaka almost fell off the building. Manaka. All this was inevitable at that moment when we touched the corpse of a god, in other words at the moment when I obtained the title of master of the game. Said to start laughing like crazy. Takami. At that time. He said, remembering what he meant. Memory year 1999 Kamakura Island. Manaka. An unknown island that we have come a long way to discover. This is a perfect adventure for the end of the century. A dungeon. Let's go in and take the treasure. He said with great emotion, but was knocked down by a rock making him fall from where he was. That hurts Takami-kun. He shouted a little angry. Takami. I will throw another one at you if you don't keep quiet. He said, scaring Manaka since he just had another one in his hand. The appearance of this island in this place is impossible in a seismic way, at any moment anything could happen, but instead you run around as if this were a picnic, saying you want to see what it is. They say you're the greatest genius since the university was founded, but there's a fine line between, he said, and noticed how Manaka he was starting to climb a stone wall. Hey, wait Manaka. Wait a moment Manaka. He said next to the man. Manaka. Takami-kun. I found something. He said and she was surprised. It's the Grand Roi de Frere. She said, seeing a ship buried in the middle of the rocks, and Takami was surprised when she arrived, although it didn't take them long to enter the place. Takami. What is this? Said as they walked through the corridors of the ship. Manaka. It's the end of the century, so it must be the Grand Roi de Frere. Takami. That can't be true. Said and they reached a door, so Manaka put her hand on what looked like a panel, unluckily it opened, finding what looked like a capsule. Manaka. That doesn't look like a Grand Roi de Frere, does it? End of memory. Villa Izumo. The day had arrived in room 202 where Issei was surrounded by his sekirei, who hugged him, reminding him of those days in Kuo, which were sad memories, but the memories now were very fierce, thanks to feeling the love of his sekireis, thanks to their link. Issei. Ah. Yawns as he wakes up seeing his girls remembering what happened last night. Memory. Tsukiyumi. I can't allow it. The legitimate wife is the only one who is allowed to sleep with her man, she said while she looked at them all authoritatively. Hikari. Ha, and since when are you the legitimate wife? He said while having his arms crossed. Hibiki. Yes, you just arrived. Said as he looked at her. Ikitsu. Yes, I always sleep with my teacher. Said while holding Issei's arm, which made Tsukiyumi angry. Musubi. Musubi is also his wife. Said only paying attention to that while rays came out of the eyes of Tsukiyumi, Musubi, Hikari and Hibiki, since Akitsu was only concentrating on hugging Issei. Kusano is sitting on his lap watching he peeled her off, and Matsu was lying on her back. Issei. Mind sooner or later it would end up happening. Greg. That's obvious, they must mark territory and determine which of them is the alpha. Albion. If you think of it as normal among females. Issei. Yes, they are right, but well. Out of mind, beautiful ones. he said, directing his gaze at Matsu and Akitsu. I have to take Kuu-chan to Miya-san to sleep, he said, and they moved away. Tsukiyumi. Issei, are you trying to escape? She said, leaving aside the staring fight, and Kusano didn't want to go. Listen, shorty, are you trying to challenge me? She said while looking at Kusano, and she looked angrily at Tsukiyumi. Matsu? It's like a fight you would see in a novel, said, enjoying the scene. End of memory. Issei. They look so cute sleeping, said, enjoying the scene until someone came to the room. Miya? Issei-san, said while wielding a knife and her eyes shining with jealousy. Issei. Miya-san, said calmly, but inside he was a little scared. Miya? I'm sure I told you that improper relationships between genders are prohibited in Villa Izumo, said while looking at him with a sinister smile. Issei. But we were just sleeping, I don't think it's inappropriate, said, trying to calm Miya while the others woke up when they heard their voices, and Miya looked at them all, which worried them. Miya? Kuu-chan is also here, she said, and Issei just sighed tiredly. Dining room. Miya? I have formally decided the rooms in which you will sleep, he said, showing a drawing of the second floor of the residence. Kuu-chan will continue to stay with me, he said, and she became sad. Musubi-san, Tsukiyumi-san, Hikari-san and Hibiki-san will stay in room 204, she said, and the four of them were surprised. Minato's room is Issei's. Tsukiyumi. You can't do that, said quite angrily. Hibiki. And where will Akitsu sleep? Asked a little curious since they didn't mention her. Miya. She will continue in Issei-san's room, I don't think she will do anything inappropriate, said, and she clung to Issei's arm without seeing the angry and jealous look of the others. Tsukiyumi. I am his wife. Being taken away from him is. Musubi. Musubi is also his wife, said, trying to complain. Hikari. Me and Hibiki are also his wives. They all tried to appeal, but Miya began to emanate a purple aura that terrified them. Miya. This is not up for negotiation, said, staying calm, and a terrifying Hanyu mask appeared. Understood, she said, and Hikari and Hibiki just nodded. Musubi. Yes, said without much encouragement. Tsukiyumi. Well, this is something you decided, she said resignedly, and all this was seen by Matsu, who saw it as funny but got angry since Issei was not left alone, but she considered that Akitsu was not much competition. Room 201. Matsu. There is only one barrier, but it is not that big now, nothing will stop me from carrying out my experiments, he said, but suddenly he noticed something strange. They are changing the distribution of their resources, he said, looking at a map that indicated the movements of MBI. Why? How suddenly? He said, to start looking for information about it. Ground floor. Tsukiyumi. That even I, Issei's legitimate wife, should be thrown out of his room and left in my place. Damn, I can't just accept it, said, standing under the stairs until he heard Miya's voice. Miya. I'm going shopping, I'll ask you to water the garden. Musubi. Yes. Goodbye, landlady, he said while Kusano waved goodbye. Kusano. See you. Hikari. Leave it to us, said with great confidence. Hibiki. If he can count on us, said while everything was seen and heard by Tsukiyumi, who remained hidden behind the stairs. Musubi. Where is Tsukiyumi-san? I asked the girls, who had no idea. Hikari. We haven't seen her since the meeting. Musubi. I really wanted to water the garden with her, said a little downcast while Tsukiyumi listened to everything in silence and then left in silence. Tsukiyumi. Why should I help with such tedious tasks? He asked into the air as he walked through one of the hallways of the house, bumping into Kagari, who laughed at what he said. Kagari. Haha. Laughed softly, but Tsukiyumi heard him. Hello, said a nervous Tato because of the look. Tsukiyumi. You really look like him, said, and Kagari stiffened at those words. Kagari. What are you talking about? I asked, trying to confuse her, and she went out of place under Tsukiyumi's gaze. City streets. In the middle of the streets, a red sports car was parked to drop someone off. Well, see you later, said the man who was behind the wheel of the car. I'll be back soon, today I'll just go to say hello, said the person who got out of the car in a single jump to start walking, and the car drove away from the place. This person's walk was a little long, but at last there was arriving at his destination. Well, I wonder if Mu-chan will be okay, he said, to begin walking to the entrance of the Izumo village, where Musubi and Kusano were watering the soil, although Kusano was more amused wanting to play. Hikari. Kuu-chan, calm down, we can play later, said, watching how the girl wanted to take the hose. Musubi. If Kuu-chan, you can't do that, you're going to get wet, he said, to move the hose to the side without noticing that he was getting wet. Hibiki. Hey, silly, you're getting someone wet, he said, watching as Musubi was bathing with the water that came out of the hose. Musubi. Ah. said removing the hose, but that's how he ended up getting Kusano wet. Hikari. Silly, now you're making Ku-chan wet. Musubi. I'm sorry. Said very nervously while Hibiki turned off the water so that it wouldn't wet anyone else. You're as careless as always, Mu-chan. She said with a smile and Musubi recognized her. Musubi. Karasuba-sama. What are you doing here? He said with great emotion, approaching her while Hikari and Hibiki took Kusano to dry her. Karasuba. I just heard some things about you, that's all, I hope I'm not bothering you. Said while looking at the girl. Musubi. Not at all, I'm glad you came. Said very happily and Issei passed through the door alongside Akitsu. Issei. Musubi-chan, did anyone come? He said, watching the scene, and Akitsu looked seriously at Karasuba, trembling slightly, as Issei noticed him getting quite worried, but greeted him politely. Room 204. Musubi. Wear my clothes until yours are dry. She said in her room, giving some clothes to Karasuba. I'm really sorry. She said, she was very worried after having wet them. Karasuba. Okay, don't worry about that, so that guy is your Ashikabi? He said, and she didn't take long to respond. Musubi. Yes, his name is Issei-san. She said until she noticed something. His Sekiryuutei badge is here. She said very impressed. Karasuba. Yes, I already have my wings. Said without much emotion. Musubi. Wow, congratulations. Said very happy for her. Karasuba. I heard you defeated number 43. Said, confusing Musubi even a little. Musubi. 43. She said until she remembered something. The girl with the scythe. She said a little angry. She was rude, so she said, and Karasuba laughed amused. Karasuba. You haven't changed, have you, Mu-chan? She said to turn to see Musubi. Actually, I came to make sure. Musubi. Make sure? Asked a little confused. Karasuba. May you remember our promise. Said while stretching out her little finger, and Musubi remembered it. Musubi. Of course. Stairs. Issei. Well, Akitsu, go into Matsu's room and explain the situation to her. I'll make sure that nothing happens. He said, and she nodded while she took Kusano with her, followed by Hikari and Hibiki. Well, let's see what happens. She said while holding a plate. With 2 cups of tea. Karasuba. I think my kimono will be dry by now. Said while Musubi left the room and she followed behind. Musubi. You're right. Said calmly, and Karasuba looked out, finding Issei holding the tea. Room 201. Matsu. Why is that thing here? Said quite scared when she heard what Akitsu told her, and then checked the cameras. House's corridor. Karasuba. I'm sorry. He said, looking at the boy who was holding the cups on his tray. I'll leave now. Issei. I understand. Said calmly but kept his guard up. Entrance of the house. Musubi. I wanted to talk to you more. Said a little downcast by Karasuba's departure. Karasuba. There's someone waiting for me anyway, we'll see you later. Said, saying goodbye while Issei and Tsukiyumi watched her leave. Musubi. Yes. See you later. She said, very animated as always. Issei. Whisper, calm down, Tsukiyumi. Said to calm the girl, in addition to maintaining his presence fixed in her search, but while Karasuba withdrew, she felt the presence of someone watching her, and when she turned around, she looked at the person in charge, who was surprised, although Karasuba continued her path. Amura. Sekiryuutei number 04 Karasuba, an MBI dog known as the Sekiryuutei Kuro Black. Outside room 201. Issei. Girls, he's already gone. Said, and the door opened. Matsu. They're going to kill me. She said, still scared, until an alert sounded throughout the place. Issei. What's wrong, Matsu? Said, very worried. Matsu. I stand the TV, look at the TV. Said, hurrying Issei outside along with the others. Dining room. Television. Minaka. Citizens of Shinto Tito, I am Hiroto Minaka of MBI, I have a proclamation to make. MBI has taken control of Tito. Issei. Mind, what are you supposed to be planning? He thought, extremely worried. Television. Minaka. A new era has begun here. This could be called an invasion, but there is nothing to fear, please continue with your lives as you have done until now. Musubi. What's going on? He said, arriving at the dining room. That's the teacher. He said when he saw the television on. Television. Minaka. However, if you really want to leave Shinto Tito, I will ask you to go through a special inspection. Tsukiyumi. Mind, so you've finally done it, Minaka. She thought with great anger. Leaving the place, but Issei wouldn't stop her, just wanting her to stay out of trouble. Issei. I understand the Ashikabi can't go out, much less the Sekiryuutei. Said, understanding that special inspection. Matsu. If the second stage of the Sekiryuutei project finally begins. Issei. The second stage, huh? Said, imagining a little what that would be like. Room 201. Everyone returned to Matsu's room where she was reviewing all the information she has been collecting. Matsu. I noticed a moment ago, as you can see, Shinto-Tito is surrounded by a river. He said, showing a map of the city. But all the bridges that leave the city have MBI resources deployed on them. Issei. No Ashikabi or Sekiryuutei will come out, that's the message. Matsu. That's right, Anada MBI. In other words, Hiroto Manaka wants to turn Shinto-Tito into a battlefield. Said seriously. City Street. On one of the paths Mia was just turning a corner, but she never expected to see a familiar face. Farisuba. Oh, wow. She said, stopping Mia, who stared at her. What a beautiful place. Is it called Izumo Village? She said as she approached slowly, and Mia became more on guard. I haven't done anything, at least today. Mia. I'll ignore it this time. She said. She started walking again. But if you do something that affects Villa Izumo, I won't forgive you again. Farisuba. Ah, this is wonderful. She said, opening her eyes a little. You're exactly the same, you're so scary, it's exciting. She said, but when they both bumped into each other at one point they got on guard, and Mia carelessly threw an apple after having taken something from her basket. I'm sorry to say, but I didn't bring my sword today. Or are you planning to do something with it? He said, pointing to a radish that was being held by Mia. Mia. Get out of here, you're a nuisance. Said with great force in her voice and pointed with the radish while Karasuba picked up the apple. Karasuba. Wow, you haven't changed. Number 01, Mia. Said, cleaning the apple. Let's meet again, only next time, with our weapons. She said, biting the apple and starting to walk until she was stopped by Mia. Mia. Wait. She said, raising her hand, and Karasuba thought he was going to attack her. The payment for that apple is 143 yen. She said, and Karasuba just smiled and left, leaving Mia, who saw her leaving, and MBI helicopters flying over the area. Mind, like this. That, it seems that it has started, take Hito-san. City streets. I wonder what happened, you seem happy. Karasuba. Did you notice? Said, looking at the driver of the car. Yes, I'm your Ashikabi, we're connected, he said without taking his eyes off the road. Karasuba. You really are simple, Natsuo. Said, still looking at the boy. Natsuo. Simple. That's something cruel, he said without showing much emotion and skidding where Karasuba noticed a Sekiryuutei who was standing there doing nothing. Karasuba. Stop the car, Natsuo. Said, and he stopped to quickly jump out of the car. Natsuo. What's wrong? I ask, somewhat confused. Karasuba. I'm a little excited thanks to number 01, I'm going to play for a while. The plan has entered the second stage, and the number of Sekiryuutei without wings is quite small, as I will deliver them to my master, this sucks. Said that blonde Sekiryuutei who uses a whip. I haven't had any luck since number 107 escaped me, I wonder if I should give up. Karasuba. Hey, if you're free, how about playing with me a little? He said, unsheathing his sword. Are you a Sekiryuutei? Well, it doesn't matter since you challenged me, I'll defeat you, she said, thinking that she would win easily. Karasuba. You are ignorant and impertinent, I don't care at all. He said, angering the girl. Shut up, who the hell do you think you are? She said, taking out her whip ready to attack, and from one moment to the next, she launched into the attack, where there was a clash of their attacks, while they turned their backs to each other, and in the end, the blonde Sekiryuutei was cut, causing her to release a huge amount of blood. Karasuba. I guess I'll have to call them to come and pick this up. Said, looking at the Sekiryuutei's body that was in a pool of her own blood. Villa Izumo. From one of the windows of the house, Issei watched the helicopters that hovered over the city, thinking about everything that would happen from now on. Issei. Mindly, it seems like it's time to fight for them. Greg. That's how Ibo is spoken, a dragon protects its females. Albion. Soon the legend of the dragon carrying 2 celestial dragons or something like that will begin. Said, trying to give an epic name. Issei. Let's better forget the names for now. Said to his 2 friends to turn their heads, finding Musubi. Musubi. Ku-chan fell asleep with Hikari-san, Hibiki-san, and Akitsu-san. Issei. I see, do you know where Tsukiyumi is? I haven't seen her since she left, she said, denoting her concern. Musubi. I haven't seen her. Said, and some helicopters passed near the village. Issei. Even though the city was taken, it's quite calm. Said while looking out the window. Musubi. Yuzume-san had something to do, so she's been out since the morning. Said, and Issei looked at her a little confused until she realized something. Issei. Is something wrong? I asked, a little curious. Musubi. I just thought we're alone. Said, and Issei didn't understand since he didn't mention Matsu. Issei. Millimeters, well, more or less. Said, looking at the girl. Musubi. Then, I must do it now. He said, confusing Issei. There is something I have to talk to you about, it is about the promise that Karasuba-sama and I made, one between two Sekiryūtei, something that I definitely want to keep. Memory. Karasuba. We don't need humans on this planet. Said from the top of a construction. Musubi. The Ashikabi that one day I will meet. He said looking at the horizon. I will definitely fall in love with him, there is no way I can say that we don't need him. Karasuba. You say the same things as Yum. Said with a nostalgic smile. Musubi. Did Yum-sama also say that? I asked, extremely curious. Karasuba. So, how about this, survive until there are only two of us, and then we will fight until one of us loses. She said looking at Musubi who turned to look at her. Musubi. Karasuba-sama and me. Karasuba. If you win then what you say is correct but if I win. End of memory. Musubi. What Karasuba-sama said fight and live until it is just the two of us. She said surprising Issei. And when that moment comes I will definitely defeat her, and I will release the Sekiryūtei whose wings have been damaged to the free sky once again, being separated from your Ashikabi must be sad. Issei. If I can understand it. Said somewhat crestfallen. Musubi. I love you. Said with a cute smile while her cheeks were slightly pink. Issei. I love you too Musubi-chan. Said and she smiled happily to take Issei's hand, placing it where her heart was beating hard. Musubi. Are you sorry? How much does my heart beat? She said and Issei smiled, concentrating on feeling how it beat. It's very warm, I'm grateful to all the gods for the fact that I'm here happily with the person I love, the landlady, Hikari-san. Hibiki-san Kuu-chan, Akitsu-san, Matsu-san and Tsukiyumi-san for the miracle that we all knew each other. He said and Issei smiled since he felt the same way the feeling of loving someone makes one stronger. I want Karasuba-sama to find it too, that person who doesn't know anything, who acts like a child he said, letting go of Issei's hands to turn around. I want him to understand no matter what that's what I aspire to. She said very happily to look at Issei. I wonder if it's too much to ask. She said a little crestfallen. Issei. No, I believe and trust in you and I know you can do it. He said, cheering his first Sekiryūtei. Musubi. Yes. Said very animated and happy. Issei. Mind, I will always trust you and others, my power will always be for you, I will do anything for your smile. Building. Tsukiyumi looked at the city from above, while the helicopters passed from one side to the other. Tsukiyumi. How absurd. Said looking at the city. Hamura. You must understand that this city was planned as a battlefield for us Sekiryūtei from the beginning. Said behind Tsukiyumi who turned around. Tsukiyumi. Hamura. I won't fight someone who is still recovering, she said, turning her head to continue looking at the city. Hamura. You're the only one here who talks about fighting. Said while crossing her arms. Tsukiyumi. In that case, get out of here. Hamura. The Sekiryūtei project has progressed to the second stage, that means that enough Sekiryūtei have taken their wings. Tsukiyumi. Mindly, wait what she meant was that because I became Issei's Sekiryūtei. That's what she thought until Hamura called her. Hamura. Is something wrong? Asked since he hadn't said anything. Tsukiyumi. And it has nothing to do with you. He said without turning around and approaching the edge of the building. If you don't feel like fighting, then don't appear in front of me for no reason. He said before jumping, leaving Hamura in place. Hamura. Even though I'm hanging around you. Said to get closer to the edge and look at more helicopters passing by. Basically, Tito was sealed to make the Sekiryūtei fight, from now on, the Sekiryūtei who lowers their guard will be removed quickly. City streets. Through the streets Yukari dragged Shiina who felt too embarrassed to walk. Shiina. Yukari-san, you know these clothes are kind of strange. He said even as he was pulled by it. Yukari. You look good in it. She said a little blushing. You don't even look like a man. Shiina. I see. Said believing in Yukari's words. Yukari. This way they won't realize it's you. Said with a smile without noticing that they were being watched. Car. Mikagami. Said somewhat surprised. What's wrong Mikagami? Mikagami. The little bird that escaped doesn't seem to have its wings yet. Said looking at Shiina who was quite embarrassed but didn't say anything. A Sekiryūtei, right. Mikagami. When I see him, I really start to want him. He said and his companion sighed tiredly. It's a bad habit of yours, well it doesn't matter, do what you want he said with disinterest. Mikagami. I'll leave it to my Sekiryūtei, but they've already failed me twice, I'll take it myself. I conclude that that was his best option. Villa Izumo afternoon. Tsukiyumi. Then why is this? Asked since she was wearing a maid outfit. Musubi. It's clothes that Yuzume-sen gave me. Said as if it weren't something strange. Hikari. Honey how I look. Said wearing her own suit. Hibiki. And how about mine? Said modeling his own. Issei. They all look very beautiful. said looking at the three who smiled happily. Tsukiyumi. Wait. He said to grab Musubi by her combat suit and start shaking her. Don't ask that. I asked why I have to wear this. She said very nervous and blushing. Musubi. Well, you said you were going to help in these clothes. She said very dizzy from the sudden movements until Tsukiyumi stopped. Tsukiyumi. Help. Why do I have to help? She said, but Musubi didn't answer, so she started shaking her again. That's why I asked. She said until they noticed Mia's presence. What do you want? She asked and Mia had 2 baskets. Mia. I'll leave the shopping to you. Said and Musubi was very dizzy being caught by Issei to help her. Tsukiyumi. And why me exactly? Asked a little angrily without having the intention of helping. Mia. Those who don't work don't eat. Said as she emanated a purple aura, scaring Tsukiyumi. Tsukiyumi. What? Said very nervously while Issei healed Musubi a little. Mia. You know if you hurry, you can sit next to Issei-san at dinner. Said and all the girls were interested in that, even Musubi who was already better to look at Tsukiyumi, along with Hikari and Hibiki who also didn't want to lose, while Kusano and Akitsu hugged Issei's arms. Kusano. This side is Kuu. Said holding Issei's right arm. Akitsu. And this is mine. Said hugging her left arm, but none of the 4 heard that as they left the house to shop. Issei. You know Mia-san, you are very ingenious. I praised the woman since it was a brilliant idea. Mia. Thanks for the compliment. Said with a nice smile. Park night. In the city park a fight was taking place where you could see some white fabrics that moved on their own and a Sekiryūtei cut them, but it was not enough since it seemed that the white fabrics never ended, so that Sekiryūtei launched an attack on the person responsible. Starting a close combat that the Sekiryūtei in white clothing dodged as if nothing had happened until the other Sekiryūtei launched 3 projectiles directly at the Sekiryūtei in white clothing, who covered herself with the white ribbons, and when the other Sekiryūtei thought that the mysterious Sekiryūtei had won appeared behind her, attacking her mercilessly, seriously injuring her. Sekiryūtei number 72. Emmi Ashikabi. Said as she crawled and the mysterious Sekiryūtei approached her to touch her mark. For this cloak hired for my dance and I will purify the nightmares of my Ashikabi, he said, erasing the mark. Place under construction. In this place a beautiful woman drank an entire bottle of sake under the moonlight. The wind there is a disturbingly dark wind blowing here, he said while looking at the city. Ah my Ashikabi, you will come for me, and I will come for you. Leaving the city. At one of the many exits there was a traffic jam, and many wanted to leave due to fear and uncertainty, while the MBI soldiers monitored the surroundings and those who planned to leave the city. Man. Hurry up, idiots. He shouted very angrily while the soldiers searched everyone without exception. Man too. I don't know if they're looking for criminals or something, but it has nothing to do with us. Said while a boy and a covered girl tried to pass by without being seen. Boy. Whisper silly, don't shake so much. He said to the girl trying to get past while the soldiers were distracted with the others, but they weren't so lucky. Soldier. Wait. He said, looking at both of them, who stopped, but the girl was quite scared and the soldier was approaching. Boy. Run. He said and they both started running. Soldier. Hey. Wait. He said as he ran to chase them. Boy. Don't look back. He said as they continued running, but unfortunately for them someone jumped where they were standing in their way. Number 93, identification as Kuno, he said, scaring the girl. Boy. Who are you? Asked, very surprised, while the Sekiryūtei known as Kuno trembled with fear. Kuno. Lala blue Sekiryūtei. Boy. What did you say? He said to look at Kuno. This is just a warning, if they go further what you expect is he said, showing his fingers that were sharp and dangerous blades, and the boy was pulled by the girl. Kuno. Haruka-sama, let's go back. He said pulling the boy who didn't move even a bit. Haruka. Silly, how can you say that after going so far? Said turning to look at her, noticing that quite a few soldiers were coming behind them. Kuno. No, this person is bad. She said quite scared. Please. They'll kill you too. She said as some tears fell from her eyes. Soldier. They're over there. He shouted as he arrived at the place and the boy noticed their proximity. Haruka. This is bad. Said, holding Kuno tighter while jumping off the bridge. Soldier 2. They went that way. Pointed in their direction, so the others began to chase them. Soldier 3. Follow them. Follow them. They said and the Sekiryūtei nicknamed the blue Sekiryūtei smiled maniacally. So they escaped ha. She laughed while being watched by Hamura. Hamura. Number 104, hey for the discipline unit to go out in public like this, Minaka is serious. Villa Izumo. In the bathroom Issei along with his Sekiryūtei were cleaning the room although that was for Issei, Hikari, Hibiki, Akitsu and Tsukiyumi since Musubi and Kusano were playing with the water. Tsukiyumi. What are you doing? She said, very angry and with a marked vein on her head, and Musubi continued playing with Kusano, while Issei continued cleaning manually instead of with magic. The landlady ordered us to clean, not play. Do it well. Issei. He laughed, amused by the situation. Mindfully, it's the first time I've seen them in swimsuits, they look very cute in them. He thought with a smile as he kept the pace while cleaning. Tsukiyumi. Issei, tell them something. She said, coming behind him, drawing his attention, but what happened was different since he couldn't take his eyes off of how beautiful she looked in a swimsuit. Issei, do you really like her? What do you see? He said, noticing that she had his full attention, feeling proud, but Kusano caught his attention. Kusano. Ani-chan, look at me. Said, wearing her swimsuit that made her look adorable. Issei. Hey, you look very adorable, Ku-chan. Mia. It's true, you look very adorable. Said, entering the place. Issei. Hello Mia-san, is something wrong? I asked, looking at the woman who smiled while giving small glances at Issei's body since he was wearing a swimsuit. Mia. Hey, it's almost time for dinner. Issei. Understood Mia-san. Musubi. Yes. Said very happily. Akitsu. Husband, I'll feed you. Said while giving a look and a slight smile to Issei, and on the one hand Kusano and Tsukiyumi fought with their gaze. Hikari. Honey, how do we look? Said, showing her swimsuit just like Hibiki. Hibiki. Yes, honey, what do you think? I asked with great curiosity. Issei. I think they look very beautiful. He said, approaching both of them and whispering. Whisper and sexy. He said, blushing at the two who smiled triumphantly. Room 201. Matsu. This is, he said as he looked at his screens and someone knocked on the door. Issei. Matsu, the food is ready. Said, opening the door while he had Kusano on his shoulders, and Akitsu followed him. Matsu. I'll be right down. Said, and Issei was a little worried about her since normally she would go with him. Issei. What's up, beautiful, normally you would go with me. Said, going to where she was. Matsu. It's just that I'm looking at the super secret MBI database. Said as if nothing had happened and Issei could smell the problems. Issei. Beautiful, this gives me a bad feeling. Said, very worried, having a very bad feeling. Matsu. Don't worry, there is a lot of security in numerous areas, but you are able to see a lot of interesting things, such as which Sekiryū have obtained wings and the information on their Ashikabi, not to mention the data obtained from the fights between the winning Sekiryū and the losers, that is to say the Sekiryū who have ceased their functions. There is actually something that is a little interesting. Issei. And what would that be? He asked, a little curious, and she opened the file of an unidentified Sekiryū. Matsu. Even among enemy Sekiryū there is something of an unwritten rule. The winning Sekiryū must guard the one who lost until the MBI recovery team arrives. It is the least the combatants can do for each other, but the one who he defeated, this Sekiryū, left her on the verge of death. There are two others who have been defeated in the same way. Issei. I see, so those other two were also defeated by that Sekiryū? I asked with great curiosity. Matsu. If it is very likely, these actions are completely incomprehensible to me. Besides, there is another reason to stay with a defeated Sekiryū, and it is to show MBI who was the winner, that they leave without doing that means that there was no reason to fight. He said, surprising Issei. Anata feels very suspicious. He said seriously. Musubi. Yuzume-san, time to eat. He said from outside his room. Yuzume-san. He said to knock on the door without receiving a response, so he opened the door. Yuzume-san. He said without finding anyone. No. This. Kuriyama Association Hospital. In a room in that hospital, Yuzume looked at a little girl who was on a stretcher. Yuzume. Chiho. Said as she looked at the girl and a tear appeared in her eye. Villa Izumo. In the village, Issei was in charge of collecting the clothes that after a while were completely dry. Mia. Thank you very much, Issei-san. Said, arriving at him. Issei. It's nothing, Mia-san, I'm glad I could help you. Said with a smile. Kusano. Ani-chan. Said the little girl, drawing the attention of Issei, who was wearing a mouse suit. Issei. Haha, how adorable, Ku-chan, you are an adorable little mouse. Tell me, did Yuzume-san give it to you? He said, and she nodded. Mia. It's true, Issei-san is a cute and adorable little mouse. Said with a smile when she saw Kusano, who was smiling happily at the praise. Issei. Yuzume-san has a lot of things, those maid clothes and these suits, why does she need them? I asked, very curious. Oh, in fact, I haven't talked to her much. He said, thinking about how little he has talked to her. Mia. Are you interested? I asked with a slight tone of jealousy, but I hide it. Issei. If any of me wants to know her just like you, Mia-san. Said, and she smiled happily. Mia. Issei-san might take you at your word one of these days, Fufufu. Issei. That would make me happy, Mia-san. Said with a smile that made Mia's heart happy. Although something says that you want to repeat that little duel. Mia? Yes, it's true and I hope you're serious this time. Said since she had deduced that she held back quite a bit. Issei. I'll try. Said a little worried because if it were serious it would be very dangerous. Mia. Then I'll tell you how little I know about Yuzume-san, because of how little I know all those suits and dresses are for one person. Said calmly while Issei was quite intrigued. Issei. Mindfully, maybe his Ashikabi. Thought it as a possibility but if so why doesn't he give it to him? That's what he wondered. I remember my Mia. Yuzume. Mia. Listen, they like this. She said while wearing the mouse suit. They look so cute while laughing. End of memory. Mia. She just wanted to see that person smile, supposedly this person has been in the hospital for a long time. Said and Issei got very worried and Yuzume-san could only see her every once in a while. Issei. Is that person his Ashikabi? Ask out of curiosity. Mia. I don't know but I do understand the depth of their bond. Issei. His bond. Said with a smile. Mia. Well, I need to have dinner soon, I'm looking forward to that duel and a moment to get to know each other more, Issei-san. Said, leaving the place and loud footsteps could be heard, these being Musubi, Tsukiyumi, Hikari and Hibiki, who were running with their basket from the errand that Mia had given them. Had ordered. Entrance. Musubi. I'm back. Said while holding his basket. Hikari Hibiki. We're back. Said quite exhausted. Tsukiyumi. I lost. He said, falling to the floor with his basket. It's been 3 times in a row. Issei. Welcome home beautiful, thank you for your effort. Said to the 4 girls. Hikari. It seems we came second. Said a little discouraged. Hibiki. Don't be discouraged Hikari, next time we will win. Musubi. I won again. Said very happily and Tsukiyumi looked at her very angry. Tsukiyumi. If you are in a real battle I would never lose to you. Said very angrily. Musubi. But you lost this time, right? Said innocently, not realizing that was very rude. Issei. Won't you girls come into the house? He asked the 2 who were still fighting. Ah, by the way, we'll talk later. He said and they were a little surprised. Furiyama Association Hospital. Upon returning to the hospital you could see that Yuzume was still in that girl's room for almost the entire day. Yuzume. I must come back, sorry. Said giving her a kiss on the cheek as a sign of farewell, which woke her up. Taiho. Yuzume-chan. Said looking at the girl. Yuzume. Did I wake you up? Taiho. Don't do anything weird. How long have you been there? Yuzume. Don't worry, I just arrived. Said trying to trick the girl. Taiho. Yuzume-chan, were you crying? Said when she saw the girl's eyes a little red. Yuzume. No way. See. She said as she smiled. Taiho. I'm sorry, you haven't joined your Ashikabi because he's taking care of me. I would be very happy if he gave you your wings. I would also like to meet him. You told me that he is very kind and affectionate but you still haven't joined him. I'm sorry. Yuzume. You will meet him, don't worry. She said while holding the girl's hand. But I know that he will understand after all her heart is so warm and kind, but for now I will take care of you, I want you to stay alive. Room 201. Issei. Well, it seems there is a Sekiryūtei who is indiscriminately attacking other Sekiryūtei. Matsu. That's right. Said affirming what was said. Issei. So we will be careful, I don't want any of you to get hurt, so I ask you to relax a little and always keep your guard up. He said very seriously, but he noticed something. Hey Musubi-chan, Tsukiyumi I know what you're thinking, and it's no. He said a little angry since they weren't listening to him. Tsukiyumi. But husband, that is unforgivable vileness. Said as her sense of justice had been activated. That is unheard of for the sacred battle between the Sekiryūtei. Musubi. I bet she's strong. Said very excited to fight. I want to fight her. Issei. Girls, I'm telling you that it's dangerous and I don't want you to get hurt. He said, trying to convince them calmly but Kusano, Hikari and Hibiki also got excited since they don't usually fight, but Akitsu remained calm, as did Matsu, but she laughed because everyone they got excited. Beautiful, this is not the time to laugh at this. He said to appear the division glove because if you didn't listen to him by the good means, it would be by the bad way. I will repeat it again, I don't want any of you to be hurt, I wouldn't forgive myself. He said a little crestfallen and everyone got worried. Matsu. But Anada they would just have to run away if something goes wrong, I don't think there will be any problems. Room 202. Akitsu. Something's wrong husband. Said calmly as he looked at Issei who was lying on the tatami. Issei. She's not pretty at all, it's just that they get very excited. I consider them my wives. Well, Ku-chan is like my daughter, as I had already said, but I still worry. he said, and Akitsu showed a smile since he felt all the love and concern of her Ashikabi. Our ties. She said as she thought about the ties she has with the girls until she felt the presence of someone. Tsukiyumi comes by. She said, and she came in. Is something wrong, Tsukiyumi? She said, looking at the girl who had a blush. Tsukiyumi. Well, you're worried about me. She said, and he smiled to hug her lovingly. Issei. Of course you are my wife, as I wouldn't worry about you. Said, and she smiled at the response. Tsukiyumi. I see, I'm glad you care about me. She said with a cute smile while playing with her hair, and Issei's heart was beating with great intensity. Issei. My pretty Tsukiyumi. Said very lovingly, and she noticed a look full of love that made her very nervous. Tsukiyumi. Why are you staring at me like that? Said timidly. Issei. Because I love you and you are not left behind, Akitsu. I love them very much. Said sincerely, and Akitsu smiled happily because being with Issei always has a very warm and kind feeling in her heart, which she began to like a lot, and Tsukiyumi was very blushing. Tsukiyumi. Good husband. She said, drawing Issei's attention. Don't worry, I'm the strongest. She said with great confidence. Issei. I wouldn't expect anything less from my wife. Said with great confidence, which made Tsukiyumi happy. Tsukiyumi. Yeah, so you don't need to worry. Said, leaving with a confident smile. Issei. She's full of confidence. He said, and Akitsu just hugged him affectionately. Hey, it seems like I'll have a lot of visitors today, come on, Musubi-chan. He said, and she opened the door. Is something wrong? He asked, looking at the girl who had a look on her face. Full of calm. Musubi. Issei-san, dinner is ready, so I came to look for you. He said calmly and with a slightly stiff voice. Issei. It's okay, Musubi-chan. Said, and went down with Musubi and Akitsu, who didn't let go, but Musubi seemed a little stiff. Matsu? Yes, it's like a Fufufu novel. Said, enjoying the scene, but she noticed a dangerous aura that Musubi had, which scared her, and Issei felt a kind of bloodlust that made him retreat while the boosted gear and the division glove appeared, surprising to Musubi, who did not understand what was happening. Mindfully, so much darkness. I can see something very angry. She thought as she looked at Musubi, but a voice called her. Yuzum. Is it time for dinner? Said, arriving at the place where Matsu was hiding while watching the scene. Matsu? Yuzum-tan. He said, looking at the girl. When did you arrive? He asked, having not seen her all day. Yuzum. A while ago. Said, simply starting to walk towards the dining room. Matsu? You've been going out a lot lately. Said as he watched the girl walk past him. Yuzum. I've been busy with my part-time job, I'm hungry. She said, quickening her pace toward the dining room. What are we going to eat today? She said, and Matsu noticed a stain on her shorts. Matsu? Mind, blood. Thought when he saw the stain. Bathroom? After dinner the girls decided to take a bath and relax a little. Tsukiyumi. You understand, starting tomorrow we will be busy. The Kari Hibiki. If we understand. Said both while relaxing in the bathtub. Musubi. If we do our best. Said with great emotion, and a voice was heard. Yuzum. Can I also come in? I asked, drawing everyone's attention. Musubi. Yuzum-san. He said upon hearing the girl's voice. Of course it happens. He said in a friendly manner, although Akitsu had already finished and left the bathroom. Yuzum. Oh shit, I must have stained it when I changed. Said, seeing the stain, and Akitsu noticed this, hurrying to put on his clothes. Musubi. Yuzum-san, I'll wash your back. Said, opening the door. Yuzum. Ah yes, it's okay. Said, hiding the stained part without noticing that Akitsu saw it. Tsukiyumi. I don't understand why she can sleep with him if I am his real wife. He said while washing her hair. You're all his lovers. He said, and the others got angry. Hibiki. Shut up, he gave us a ring too. Said out of anger. Hibiki. If we are also always aware. Musubi. I am his real wife too. Tsukiyumi. That's not how it works. Said, a little upset that they didn't accept it, while Yuzum just listened. Listen, in the past the highest ranking woman was the real wife and the rest. She tried to say, but the others spoke. The Kari Hibiki. We are not in the past. They shouted very angrily. Musubi. Issei-san is not a samurai, he is a draw. He did not finish as the two covered his mouth, and Yuzum looked at the marks of all of them, feeling envious that he still did not have his wings. Tsukiyumi. Shut up, idiot. Said, very angry because she is always careless like that. Yuzum. Haha, you are very funny, I would like to feel what you feel. She said while looking at the four who turned to look at her. Joke and spend time with you. She said, since she felt that Issei was her destined Ashikabi, but she couldn't. To be by her side to take care of Chiho, who was very important to her. Tsukiyumi. What are you saying? She said, a little confused. What's wrong, you also have an Ashikabi. he said, and she tensed since she didn't have one yet, but she seemed to have one. That means that one day we will fight. Yuzume. If it's true. Said to turn around, one day we will have to fight. She said with a sad smile that was not noticed by the others. Musubi. Yuzume-san. Said, noticing a certain sadness, and Matsu went in to check Yuzume's clothes. An. Mikagami. Number 04. Asked the man next to him. Was that Sekirei Kuro the one who defeated Mitsuha? Yes, I'm sure about it, I've already confirmed it, he said calmly. Mikagami. Why is the disciplinary unit attacking other people's things? He asked himself while biting his nail. Even though they are the disciplinary unit, they are still part of the game, he said while looking at the boy, thinking that maybe he was a little stupid, they don't need to have a reason. Mikagami. Matsu, what happened to the Sekirei who was with that girl? Matsu. Number 107. Hijusa is watching them, he hasn't gotten his wings yet. Mikagami. Very soon it will be mine. Yukari's room. In the residence where Yukari lives, Shiina looked out the sliding window until the girl entered her room. Yukari. Dinner is ready. Said, making Shiina turn to look at her. Shiina. Ah, yes. Said, looking at the girl and leaving the place, following her towards the dining room where she prepared food for both of them. Yukari. Here you go. He said, holding out a plate of rice, and when he was going to take it, their hands touched, making them both blush. Oh right. By the way, Shiina, you said you were looking for someone who matches me too. She said, trying to alleviate the somewhat awkward atmosphere. Shiina. Yes. Said, more relaxed. Yukari. Could you tell me about her? And if you want, I can tell you who I'm looking for, she said, and Shiina thought about it a little before starting to speak. Your little sister? She said, a little surprised. Shiina. Her name is Kuu, I have been looking for her for a long time, when I went to the city, unknown people started chasing me. Yukari. I see, that's when I pass, right? She said, listening attentively to the boy. Very well, then let's go look for her, I'll help you. She said, very enthusiastic about helping, and Shiina was surprised. You know, I have an almost brother, but for me he was my Ani-chan, but he disappeared many years ago, but I recently found out that he is back. Shiina. Ani-chan. Yukari. Yes. Said somewhat happily when remembering her time with him. Of course I also have my Ani-san, yes he is my brother, but Ani-chan was very special for me, and mom, when I was little, was always there for me more when I cried. Memory. Yukari. When I climbed to the top of the trees and then couldn't get down, or I got lost in a dark forest. Little Yukari. Sniff, sniff. Cried the small, helpless Yukari. Issei from that world. Yukari. He shouted with a high-pitched and childish voice. There you are, Yukari. He said, denoting joy at having found her. Come, let's go home. He said, stretching out his hand while maintaining a smile. Yukari. He was always very brave, nothing stopped him if it was to take care of me, he always carried me back home, that warm back of his, I still remember that feeling. End of memory. Yukari. I really missed her all these years, I wonder if she has changed much. She said while Shiina stared at her. So Kuu-chan must be waiting for you just like I have been waiting for my Ani-chan, I'm sure. Shiina. I hope Kuu has met someone like that. She said with a smile. Just like I met you. She said, and Yukari blushed slightly. Yukari. Yes, it's true. Said with a cute smile. Good. Let's start the search for Kuu-chan tomorrow. She said very excitedly. Shiina. Yes. Said somewhat animatedly without noticing that they were being watched by a girl who was wearing something similar to a combination of a yukata and a maiko outfit and was holding a staff. Furiyama Association Hospital next morning. Yuzume was entering the girl's room early, he came to stay with her, but when he left he found someone he didn't want to see. Thank you for working so hard, he said, stopping Yuzume. I heard that your victory yesterday was almost instantaneous. I couldn't expect less from someone who was trained by Takedo Osama himself. Master Higa values you very much. Yuzume. Enough talk, who's the next target? I have 3, 1 with wings and 2 without, number 95 Kuno, he said, handing over a photo, and the 2 I want are number 65 Taki and number 16 Toyotama, finish with the first one, and then bring me those 2, he said, putting 2 more photos, and Yuzume snatched them. Yuzume. I don't care. Said, walking away with the photos in hand. Don't forget that your Ashikabi has little time left, he said with an arrogant smile, thinking that the girl in the room was Yuzume's Ashikabi. Yuzume. I know. Said without looking at the man. Izumo Villa roof. At the top of the village you could see Tsukiyumi, Musubi, Hikari and Hibiki who were looking at the city. Tsukiyumi. Let's go. Ordered the others. Musubi, Hikari, Hibiki. Yes. Said the 3 ready to fight. Issei. I guess I can't convince them not to fight. Said a little tired since they wanted to go look for her. Tsukiyumi. No husband, you won't convince us. She said looking at the boy who only looked at them still with concern. I, Tsukiyumi, will not forgive those who dishonor such a sacred battle. She said and everything was heard by Kagari. Kagari. Mindfully, I don't think there's any need for a guardian in this matter. She thought as she looked toward the horizon. Tsukiyumi. But before that. He said turning to where Musubi, Hikari and Hibiki were since Akitsu was next to Issei. Mizo Iwai. He said launching an attack against the three girls who dodged without problems to counterattack being blocked by Tsukiyumi. Had they passed by? He said with a smile. I let them watch my back. Issei. They really are very motivated. Said and Akitsu nodded. Tsukiyumi Musubi Hikari Hibiki. Issei-san honey we'll be back soon. Issei. Do well and take care of yourselves. He said, resigned to the fact that they wouldn't listen to him. Well, precious. He said looking at Akitsu. How about you and I take a walk? He said and she smiled. Akitsu. Yes husband. Said calmly and showing a little emotion. Streets. In the middle of some streets in the place you could see Haruka and Kuno who were running at high speed. Haruka. Hurry up Kuno. Said while pulling the girl's hand. Kuno. Wait, Haruka-sama. She said, being tired from running so much until she tripped and fell on the floor. Kai. Was heard when she hit the ground. Haruka. God how useless. He said looking at how the girl was lying on the floor. Why are you tripping? He said just looking at the girl who was on the floor. Kuno. Sniff, I'm not Sniff, useless, I'm Kuno. He said in tears, useless note, it said in the same way Kuno. Haruka. Come hurry up. He said, stretching out his hand for her to take. Kuno. Haruka-sama. Said accepting the hand and from behind them a whirlwind of white fabrics approached them from where that mysterious girl came from. Haruka. Shit caught up with us. Move aside Ashikabi, I don't want to hurt a human, he said in front of both of them, trying to get the boy to leave to finish quickly. Haruka. I can't just run and leave a girl behind. Said quite scared. Then I'll send you both to hell at once, he said, throwing out a whirlwind. Haruka. Kuno. Said hugging the girl thinking it was the end of him, but Kuno pushed him away and began to scream launching a sonic attack that caught the attention of the group of Tsukiyumi, Musubi, Hikari and Hibiki. A little out of the way place. Tsukiyumi. What? Said a little confused upon hearing that powerful scream. Musubi. Let's go see Tsukiyumi-san Hikari-san Hibiki-san. Said jumping and being followed by the others. Height location. Haruka. Did you see that? That was Kuno's final attack. She said as she removed 2 earplugs. The last scream. She said as if it were one of the most incredible in the world. Kuno. Haruka-sama, that name is horrible, she said very embarrassed by the name of the attack, while the mysterious girl was a little dazed but stood up. Haruka. This is bad. It didn't work. He said, quite scared as did Kuno, who ran away and the girl threw the white beads from her and when they were about to arrive, an attack of water and lightning stopped him. Tsukiyumi. Number 09, Tsukiyumi. Said entering the scene. Hikari. Number 11, Hikari. Said making a pose. Hibiki. Number 12, Hibiki. Said standing next to his sister while doing another pose. Musubi. Number 88, Musubi. Said very excited. Tsukiyumi. I challenge you to an honorable duel. Said in front of everyone while pointing at the mysterious girl. Musubi. It's a pleasure to meet you. Said with great emotion, standing next to Tsukiyumi. Yuzume. Mind why are those 4? Haruka. Who are they? Said looking at the 4 who came to the rescue while Kuno was quite scared. Tsukiyumi. Don't hide your face behind that veil. He said pointing at the mysterious Ekure, Yuzume. Tell us your name and number. He ordered authoritatively while Hikari and Hibiki prepared their rays, so he put himself on guard. You cannot. But how suspicious, she said while Musubi was agitated and wanting to fight. Musubi. He's strong. It's strong. She said with great emotion. Tsukiyumi. I heard that there is someone in this city who does not leave his name during battles and leaves the defeated Sekirei behind, even when they are almost dead, that's you, right? Yuzume. Mindly, no, you are my companions, sorry, but not yet I still can't be with you. I thought very worried. Tsukiyumi. If you won't give your name. She said, forming a flow of water on her finger, being noticed by Hikari and Hibiki who were ready to fight. Then I will remove that veil from you. She said ready to fight just like the others. Haruka. Mindfully, I don't know what's happening, but I'll take the opportunity to run away. He thought as he got up from where he was. Kuno. I can't stop. She said while trembling with fear and someone walked behind them without even being noticed until both boys saw her smile and Kuno got scared and then saw how she drank from her sake bottle. Haruka. But what's wrong with this woman? he said, very confused since he was only drinking without caring about the current situation. Arg, it stinks of liquor, he said while covering his nose, and the woman looked at the girls who were about to fight. I don't like this, he said in a drunken state, and a wind was beginning to be present in the place. No problems. The fight was about to start, and the mysterious girl, Yuzum, did not want to fight with them all under the gaze of that woman who was carrying her sake bottle. The first to attack were Tsukiyumi, Hikari and Hibiki, who launched their attacks. Tsukiyumi, Mizu Iwai, said, launching a large torrent of water. Hikari, Hibiki, Kaminari, both said, launching a powerful thunder that accompanied the water, making the attack more powerful, while the mysterious girl covered herself with her fabrics, barely managing to block the attack, although she felt the electricity run through the fabric. Tsukiyumi, not bad, it was a good combination, but it seems like she's not that bad either, said arrogantly, and the woman with the bottle approached the scene. Musubi, what a thrill. Is strong. He's strong, he said, already sensing a great fight to come. Hikari, let's see how she handles our next attack, she said, preparing an attack that Issei advised her to do. Ready, Hibiki, she said, looking at her sister. Hibiki, ready, Hikari, said as he built up his attack. Tsukiyumi, show us what you're made of, said, preparing another attack while the woman got closer. Among the Sekiryūtei, there are no fair battles, she said while the three launched their attack, creating two dragons. Tsukiyumi, water dragon. Hikari, Hibiki, thunder dragon. They said, launching their two attacks that scared Yuzum since not having wings, it would be impossible for her to block that attack, and the closer they got, the more fear ran through Yuzum until the woman crossed her path. Of both attacks surprising everyone while Tsukiyumi, Hikari and Hibiki tried to cancel their attacks. Tsukiyumi, Hikari, Hibiki, scatter, said, destroying both attacks. Tsukiyumi, that was dangerous. Who are you? She shouted, very angry at the woman who interfered. I'm just someone who was passing by here, I just don't like battles that are meaningless, that's all, she said very calmly, seeming sober. Tsukiyumi, is it meaningless? The only one who is unfair is the girl in the cloak, she said, very angry at the interference. I introduced myself properly and she said to see how she only drank from her sake bottle. But there are four of you, he said, not being able to judge anything besides seeing Musubi's great emotion. Tsukiyumi, Musubi, Hikari, Hibiki, said, calling the other three. Musubi, yes, said while having stars in his eyes. Hikari, what's wrong? I asked, a little confused. Hibiki, what do you want? Said, just waiting for him to speak. Tsukiyumi, I know my husband said we should take care of each other, but a Sekiryūtei fight is 1 versus 1. Musubi, so it's my turn now? Said, very excited. Tsukiyumi, no, better play with that girl over there. Musubi, oh, you're right, said, coming out of his excitement to turn around where Kuno and Haruka were, who were scared. Tsukiyumi, there shouldn't be much of a problem, let's continue, said as water appeared around him. Hikari, we will stay on the sidelines, we will not attack, he said, crossing his arms. Hibiki, honey, he'll be mad about this, so don't get hurt, said, looking at Tsukiyumi. Musubi, I'm number 88, Musubi, nice to meet you, kindly introduced himself before the Sekiryūtei and her Ashikabi, who were trembling slightly. Haruka, ah, hello, how polite it is, a pleasure, said while scratching his head. Musubi, Ito, shall we fight? Hikari, you know, silly, the girl is shaking, I don't think she wants to fight, said, but Musubi ignored her, and Kuno looked at her incredible figure, becoming depressed. Kuno, and not, it's impossible. I lose in every way possible, she said, very depressed. Haruka, you really are useless, aren't you? He said while a drop of sweat ran down his head. Hey, you, he said, looking at Musubi. Musubi, yes, said calmly even though the guy was a little rude. Haruka, this is number 95 Kuno, said the boy, and Musubi looked at the girl. I'm your Ashikabi, Shigi Haruka, I'm sorry but we won't fight, he said, standing up together with Kuno while protecting her. I don't know anything about this Sekiryūtei project, but we have no intention of fighting anyone, she said, surprising Musubi, while on the other hand Tsukiyumi was ready. Tsukiyumi, water dragon, he said, launching the next attack, which was destroyed with difficulty by the mysterious girl, Yuzum. This ends now, he said, charging his attack, and Yuzum became defensive until the woman was crossed on the road. Am I out of it? She said as she held the empty sake bottle out to her. Tsukiyumi, get out of the way, said very angrily as the woman got in her way. That's not a very nice way to talk to me, you're insolent, he said while looking at his empty bottle. Hikari, we think so too, said, and Hibiki nodded. Tsukiyumi, hey, whose side are you on? she shouted very indignantly. Well, I'm on your side, he said, holding Yuzume, who didn't understand what was happening. Tsukiyumi. Wait, you're said to notice how petals of a cherry tree were flying towards her direction. Hanagakure. He said, raising his hand. You better remember this for next time, the only ones who can talk to me like that are number 01 and the love of my life, he said, still throwing more petals. Tsukiyumi. Are you a Sekirei? Said while covering herself like Hikari and Hibiki. Number 03, Kazuhana. The beautiful woman introduced herself. See you later, display of panties and S&M. She said as a farewell before launching a gust of wind to disappear from the place along with Yuzume, leaving her empty bottle behind. Tsukiyumi. She ran away. Said quite surprised. Hikari. She was quite strong. Said coming to Tsukiyumi. Hibiki. Number 03, it's a digit after all. Said thinking about what he said. Tsukiyumi. Musubi. Said turning to look for the girl. Hikari. Huh. She was here a second ago, she said, very confused. Tsukiyumi. Where are you? Where did you go? She said quite worried. Electric power plant. Yuzume. Why did you save me? He asked as he recovered a little. Kazuhana. I've seen you before. He said as he looked at the city and then at the girl. How is Mia doing? Yuzume. TSK damn, even if I fool Musubi and the others. She said, taking off her cloak, revealing her hair and face. I guess it was to be expected of you number 03, I just can't fool the elders, like number 10 Yuzume, I challenge you to a battle again, he said, and Kazuhana scratched his head tiredly. Villa Izumo. Issei. Ah, the girls are going to be angry. Said and then looked at two girls who followed him with a smile on their faces. Ikitsu. I don't mind husband. Said while keeping his arms around Issei's left arm. As I said a few minutes ago, I am number 65 Taki, may the fog of my prayer hide my Ashikabi from his enemies. He said with great seriousness although he showed a joyful smile. I reintroduce myself to my Ashikabi number 16 Toyotama, may my kicks and speed finish off my Ashikabi's enemies, it makes me happy to finally find you. She said with a smile. I know she uses a cane, but I think it's unnecessary, which is why I leave her as a hand-to-hand fighter or kick specialist. Issei. As I said a while ago, I'm Issei, hi to Issei, let's get along well from now on. He said with a nervous smile and she smiled happily. Well, I'll go clean things up and tell Miya-san, Akitsu, can you stay with her and wait for the others? He said looking at the girl who nodded. Akitsu. If that's what my husband wants, that's what it will be. Said seriously as he led them to the dining room and Issei went up to the second floor. Issei. Ah, I hope they are okay. Said Matsu just opened the secret door. Oh hello beautiful. Matsu. Oh hello Anada, is something wrong? Asked with great affection in her voice. Issei. I'm not just going up to help with the housework. He said looking at his sekirei. If you have clothes to wash, you can give them to me, precious. Matsu. Are you helping? Said a little surprised. Issei. Yes, for the moment it is the best I can do for our luck, they have not attacked us since that Manaka besieged the city, and I doubt that you want me to destroy the city. Matsu. Well, destroying it, I don't think it's a bad idea, but we would end up being wanted and as for the rest, you are the perfect husband. She said to hug Issei, and he reciprocated by giving her a kiss that brought out his wings. Fufufu, your kisses are very sweet. I stand in my clothes, you want to take them off? She said flirtatiously while drawing a circle on her chest. Issei. Well, I would like to, but we can't here, darling. Said, bringing her closer to him to gently bite her ear, making her squirm with pleasure. Matsu. Well, something tells me that you want us to experience ice tan. Said as she brought Issei's hand closer to her butt and he touched it. Issei. I admit that I would like this, beautiful, but I don't want Miya-san to throw us out. He said calming Matsu. But we can do that another day, let's say you and I have a date in maybe a hotel while we're in transit. He said and she smiled flirtatiously. Matsu. It's an honest promise. Said to enter her room very happily and Issei entered his room to take everything there was to wash. Higari. Matsu, you are there. He said and she left. Matsu. Yes, it happens. Said with a big smile on his face. Higari. Could you get some medicine? Said while holding her chest that still had frequent pains. Matsu. That's not good, you know that my medicines are only temporary measures to relieve the pain. Issei. The pain still persists, huh? He said, arriving at them. Sorry, it seems that what I did didn't help much. Higari. Don't say that, you really helped me. Said so that Issei wouldn't feel bad. Issei. I would like to help you, but I can't do much, sorry, well, I'd better go wash my clothes, see you. He said going down the stairs with the clothes in hand and Higari watched him leave without being able to stop looking at him. Matsu. Has your body not stabilized yet? Asked, quite worried. Bagari. I haven't been able to go back to normal. She said while hugging herself. This is the first time this has happened to me. She said a little blushing, surprising Matsu. Matsu? Will it be by chance? Said believing a certain possibility. Bagari. No, I'll come for her later. Said to calm down a little and leave the place while Matsu looked at her. Issei. This would be faster with magic. Said while shaking his blanket. Musubi. Issei-san. She shouted, drawing Issei's attention to see how she fell from the sky. Is Issei-san. She said as she fell and Issei, without thinking twice, launched himself to catch her, becoming his quilt for him. Landing. I'm sorry. She said, very sad to be saved by Issei again. Issei. It's okay Musubi-chan. He said while holding her. The important thing is that you're okay. Musubi. Ito come with me, now. Said, but Akitsu immediately came out followed by the other two Taki and Toyotama. Akitsu. Husband, what's up? Said to see Musubi, but not Tsukiyumi, Hikari and Hibiki. Musubi. Hurry up. Said taking Issei's arm as he led him away quickly, being followed by his 3 Sekirei who followed them, and Matsu watched them leave. Issei. This sounds so familiar. Said remembering when they met. Musubi. There is someone I want you to meet. Said while maintaining the rhythm and the 3 Sekirei followed them at a distance. Issei. Why me? He asked very doubtfully. An apartment complex. He said while looking at the place with Musubi, Akitsu, Taki and Toyotama. Taki. What are we doing here, teacher? She asked, very curious. Musubi. Come. She said going towards the stairs of the place so that the others followed her, although Akitsu took Issei's left arm to the jealousy of Taki and Toyotama, who also wanted to hug their Ashikabi. I'm Musubi. She said knocking on the door of the 2nd floor, and when it opened you could see Haruka and Kuno, one looking with terror and the other with distrust to let them in. Issei. With pleasure, my name is Hyoudou Issei. Said in a kind manner. Akitsu. I'm Akitsu number 07. Said simply since he didn't care about them. Taki. I'm Taki number 65, it's a pleasure. Said seriously, giving a slight bow, staying close to Issei. Toyotama. I am Toyotama number 16, I am my master's Sekirei. Said with great love and affection. Musubi. Who are they? I asked, very curious and innocent. Issei. We'll talk about that later Musubi-chan is a long story and well, what do you want? Said somewhat curious, looking at the two. Musubi. Issei-san, this person is the Ashikabi of number 95, Kuno-san. Said, drawing Issei's attention, who listened attentively. Issei. I see. Said simply. Haruka. Yes, and this is your Ashikabi. Said, angering Issei. Issei. Her name is Musubi-chan. He said a little angrily. As Akitsu, Taki and Toyotama have already introduced themselves, they are also my beloved Sekirei. He said and the two new ones smiled happily upon hearing the word beloved. Musubi. Nice to meet you, Issei-sen will do something for you. Said surprising Issei who did not understand what was happening. Issei. Huh? I thought you just wanted to introduce me to your friends he said, quite confused. Musubi. Issei-san, I want to save them. Said and Issei smiled, already knowing his Sekirei's dream. Villa Izumo. Tsukiyumi. Musubi. Musubi. She said very worried along with Hikari and Hibiki and then entered Matsu's room. Hikari. Matsu, Musubi hasn't returned. I ask when I get to the room. Matsu. If you are looking for Musubi-tan, he came and took Ice-tan with the others. Tsukiyumi. What did you say? Where did she go? She said very angrily, ignoring the word with the others. Matsu. Who knows? She said without knowing where she was taking him. Did something happen? She asked a little curiously and it didn't take long for them to tell her what happened. The Sekirei of the mantle. She said and the three nodded. Are you sure about that? He asked while remembering the bloodstains on Yuzume's clothes. Hibiki. If there is no doubt, Matsu, she is marrying Sekirei, we found her attacking one with her Ashikabi. Said very confidently. Matsu. And the one I attack is number 95 who disappeared with Musubi-tan. Tsukiyumi. Either way she's going to have problems. Said very angry at having left like that, forgetting the worry she had. Matsu. Number 95. Hikari. I thought she was talking about Musubi. Said as she was surprised by how worried she was. Hibiki. But number 95 trembled just by seeing Musubi, she will surely have problems. Tsukiyumi. She was incredibly weak, I wonder why Manaka released a girl like that to the ground. Was wondering very curiously while Matsu searched for information. Matsu. Because in one of the many futures or well, tiny possibility I could win what the Sekirei project is, but that is impossible, our Ashikabi is invincible. said with great confidence, and everyone agreed. Tsukiyumi. Who would see anything in someone who can't even do something? Said very angry at believing that she could win. Matsu. The Sekiryūtei don't have to fight by engaging in combat with each other. Said looking very seriously at Tsukiyumi. Since this is a free-for-all, battle royale, it is common sense to also use a little of what you have here up, she said, and Tsukiyumi was embarrassed since that meant she was just thinking with her fists. Tsukiyumi. I wonder why I feel a little upset whenever I talk to you. Said while looking reproachfully at Matsu, in addition to having a huge vein marked on her head, and Hikari and Hibiki laughed at this. Matsu. It may be because you agree with me. Said in a mocking but angry manner when their gazes met, starting a staring duel, and Hikari and Hibiki observed that sparks were coming out in the middle of them. Kusano. No. Don't fight. He said almost in tears. Hikari. Calm down, Kuu-chan. Said approaching the youngest of the group to calm her down. Hibiki. Don't worry, they won't fight. Said to calm her down, but Kuu began to grow her plan towards where Tsukiyumi and Matsu were. Tsukiyumi. Wait, I understand, stop Kusano. Said very scared, and then they were both taken out of the room while Kusano held them by their hands and Hikari and Hibiki went behind them. Kusano. Let's go into the bathroom together so we can get along again. Said with a big smile. Tsukiyumi. I lost. She said a little depressed. Matsu. I can't beat a crying girl. Said as she was led by the hand, and Mia looked at them very amused. Apartment. Haruka. That landlord really pisses me off. He said, venting to Issei, who was just listening to him. He keeps coming in at all times, plus I spend my time studying. Issei. Are you studying? I asked a little curious. Haruka. Well, I failed admission to university twice, I tried to enter Shinto-tei. Said, surprising Issei, who can't imagine someone failing twice in a row. Issei. Well, the third time's the charm, I hope we meet at the university. Said in a friendly manner to encourage the boy. Haruka. That you also entered the university and tried to enter Shinto-tei. Said pointing at Issei. Issei. If I tried, I recently arrived in the city and I'm waiting to enter, although when I arrived I became Yusubi-chan's Ashikabi, and then the others arrived. He said with a happy smile. Yusubi. It must be destiny that brought us here. Said very happily. Toyotama. It's true, destiny crossed my path with my cute Ashikabi. Said with a smile. Aki. It's true, I'm glad I met the teacher that way. She said as she hugged him around the neck and he looked at her with a smile. Akitsu. If fate brought me together with my husband. Said while holding Issei's arm tighter. Yusubi. If it must be destiny, they are both Ashikabis and plan to go to the same university. Said, putting those two things together as if it were destiny, while Haruka saw all the Sekiryūtei and Issei who were extremely beautiful and all shined with a happy smile. While his was very depressive, insecure and crying. Haruka. I think we have many differences, and one is that my Sekiryūtei is useless and you have many that I doubt are. Kuno. My name is not useless. Said very depressed by her Sekiryūtei's words. Issei. Well, let's move on to what's important. They told me they had a problem. What is that problem? I asked a little curious and they tensed a little. Haruka. You don't seem like a bad guy, you can tell that your Sekiryūtei really want to be with you, but it really is something Issei. Okay, I'll do it. Said with great confidence in his words. Yusubi. Yes, we will keep it a secret. Aki. If the teacher says so it will be. Said calmly. Toyotama. Yes, my pretty Ashikabi, I won't say anything either. Akitsu. If my husband says it, I will keep the secret. Haruka. To be honest, we don't want to fight. He said, and Issei only listened attentively. Rather, we can't, it's impossible, this girl seriously can't do anything, her strength is not a big deal, and her only power is to scream. He said, and he felt bad. That's why we want to abandon the Sekiryūtei project, we want to leave Tito. Issei. Get out of Tito, huh? Izumo Villa bathroom. Matsu Ice-tan, Musubi-tan and Akitsu-tan are taking a while, don't you think? Tsukiyumi. That damn Yusubi, she took the opportunity to have Issei to herself, but it backfired. Good thing Akitsu always follows Issei so he won't do anything inappropriate. Hikari. It's the first time I've heard that you don't complain that she doesn't let go of him. Matsu. Hikari-tan, Hibiki-tan, Tsukiyumi-tan, from now on do not enter the bathroom with any Sekiryūtei who has a different Ashikabi. Said, surprising the three who looked at her a little confused. Hibiki. What are you trying to say, Matsu? Matsu. They would definitely be defenseless momentarily, you too, Kusano-tan. Said, looking at the little girl who was covered in foam. No matter where they are, they cannot afford to let their guard down. Inside the cage called Shinto Tito, the war has started. Apartment. Issei. So run away from Tito. He said, looking at the boy. Haruka. Yes. Issei. I guess from the way you tell me they already tried it and failed. Haruka. If you look, the MBI helicopters fly over the city day and night. There are a large number of soldiers waiting at the stations and airports. We tried to run out over one of the bridges, but it was. Issei. Full of confidence and a strong guardian or something. Said, and he nodded. Haruka. There was the disciplinary unit according to Kuno. Only extremely strong Sekiryūtei are within this unit under the orders of MBI. If necessary they would even kill an Ashikabi. Said to take Issei's shirt, and Akitsu, Taki and Toyotama got angry thinking about attacking him. They have such a person watching. MBI has no intention of letting us leave here. Issei. If I ever thought that something like this would happen. Said calmly as he understood that news instantly. Haruka. TSK, you really have it easy. He said, and everyone turned to look at him. You have many Sekiryūtei who are obviously strong, and they will take care of you so that you can live a peaceful life. He said, and Kuno became depressed when he saw how beautiful they were. All. Issei. It seems that you need to understand something. He said, standing up to look at the boy who fell to the ground when he felt Issei's bloodlust. I am stronger than any of my beloved girls, and thanks to that I know that I will be able to protect them. I trusted them so much. How they trust me, and if I live peacefully it is because I am sure of my strength and my reason for fighting, and that is them. He said seriously, stopping expelling bloodlust, while Kuno went to where Haruka was. Kuno. You kissed me, you said I was your girl. He said with some shyness, making the boy blush. Haruka. I understand, I won't compare you to anyone anymore. He said, sitting down while shaking slightly. Damn, how are we going to get out of Tito? Night streets. Issei and the other girls left the apartment to walk towards Izumo Villa. Issei. This is quite complicated. Escaping from here is complicated, and even more so with all that surveillance. Can I really help you? He asked since he did not want to risk them hurting the others. Musubi. Issei-san said, very concerned for the boy who was only thinking if there was a way to help. Villa Izumo. Tsukiyumi. You're late, Issei. She said, receiving the group along with Kusano, Hikari and Hibiki. Who are they? She said, looking at Taki and Toyotama. Taki. I'm Taki, number 65 Sekiryūtei of the teacher, nice to meet you. He said formally but recognized Tsukiyumi. What a teacher, I didn't think you were the Ashikabi of the one who hated all Ashikabi. Toyotama. My name is Toyotama, number 16 Sekiryūtei of my beloved Ashikabi. Akitsu. We're home. Said simply but held on to Issei. Musubi. We're back. Said as if nothing was happening, but Issei was worried since he knew that an angry woman was very bad, but your wife being angry is almost the end of the world, and he knew it was the end of the world when Hikari and Hibiki left. His surprise, so together with Tsukiyumi and Kusano they grabbed him by his shirt. Tsukiyumi. Dear husband, you have many things to explain. Said while the three girls and Kusano expelled a black aura. Issei. Girls, wait, it's not my fault, and you didn't think I was going to leave you alone, right? They are all important to me, she said, calming the girls a little. Well, let me tell you what happened. Streets. In the middle of the street were Yuzume and Kazuhana, quite drunk, walking with difficulty. Kazuhana. I can't keep walking. Said as she swayed, trying not to fall. Yuzume. Me neither. Said in the same way as Kazuhana, arriving with difficulty at Villa Izumo. We're here. Room 202. In Issei's room, he was sleeping peacefully, being hugged by Akitsu, since she didn't like to let go of his arm, but Yuzume and Kazuhana opened the door to Issei's room. Yuzume. Huh. Did I leave my futon spread out? She said, still under the effects of the alcohol. Kazuhana. I can't stay awake. She said to enter the futon, although something curious happened as she ended up taking off her dress. Next morning. Issei's mortal enemy had appeared. The rays of the sun hit his eyes, waking him up in the process, feeling like someone was hugging him. When he saw those responsible he became confused. Issei. Huh. EHHH. He said, quite surprised. Akitsu. He said, calling to the girl since on her chest was an unknown woman and next to her right was Yuzume. Akitsu. Yes, husband. Said looking at his Ashikabi to notice the two, so he tilted his head in confusion. Issei. What is Yuzume-san doing on our futon? And who is she? I asked, very confused to be taken out of there with the help of Akitsu. Akitsu. I don't know, husband. Said, not having an answer. Tsukiyumi. Issei, what's wrong? She shouted, very worried, opening the door. Musubi. Issei-san. Screamed worriedly. Hikari. Hibiki, honey, are you okay? They shouted behind them. Taki. Is teacher okay? Said, arriving at the place to go in and hug Issei in case he was in danger. Toyotama. Don't worry, my beloved, I will protect you. He said, looking for an enemy, but instead they woke up Yuzume. Yuzume. Gosh, they are noisy. Said as her head hurt from her hangover until she saw Issei and blushed a little. Tsukiyumi. Issei. What do you think you're doing? She said, very angry, thinking about a certain thing. The Kitsu. Husband has done nothing wrong. Said to calm her down. Issei. It's true, I don't understand what's happening. He said, looking at the girls. Asahana. I drank too much, huh? Where am I? She said, standing up and surprising Tsukiyumi, Hikari and Hibiki. Tsukiyumi, Hikari, Hibiki. Number 03. The three said, very surprised. Asahana. Lower your voice a little. Said with a terrible headache while holding her head. Issei. Oh, let me help you. Said calmly, holding the woman's head, who looked at him in disbelief while she felt the headache disappear, and something pushed her towards the man in front of her, which Issei also felt, but he let it go to concentrate on healing. His pain at least could do that. Asahana. It can't be you, are you Issei-kun? She said, and he got confused. It can't be, not now that I notice if you look like him, it's not you. She said while holding his cheek, and he set his hand on hers, enjoying that heat. If it's you, I can feel that affection. She said, but Issei held her and dodged an attack from Tsukiyumi. Tsukiyumi. Issei, stay away from her. She's with the girl in the cloak. She said to receive a blow on the head from Mia, Landlady Dono. Mia. I think we already told you that no type of violence is allowed here, you understand, right Kazahana? Said Issei was giving her his shirt so that she could cover herself. Asahana. It's been a while, Mia, if you're here does that mean I'm in Izumo Villa? Said while putting on Issei's shirt. Musubi. Do you know her? Said a little curious as she looked at Mia. Mia. She was here for a while, Yuzume, were you the one who brought her? Said looking at the girl who was blushing when she saw Issei's bare back and chest. Yuzume. It's likely. Said a little embarrassed. Mia. Anyway, you two, do you think you can do something about how you're dressed? You too, Issei-san, although it doesn't bother me to see you like this, Yufufu. She said, since that time when I washed the bathroom I enjoyed seeing her muscles. Issei. He will, Mia-san, I'm sorry I have to take away your views. Said going to the bedroom closet to grab a new shirt and put it on. Tsukiyumi. Did you know her? He asked, looking at Yuzume, who was putting her clothes back on. Yuzume. If I suddenly ran into her on the street. She said, trying to sound convincing, all while being watched by Mia. Yes. It's true. She said, a little nervous. Asahana. Why yes, that's right, that's how it happened, I actually came out of nowhere. Said while rubbing her head, and all the girls looked at them. Tsukiyumi. Enough. Said, but they both laughed a little awkwardly. Memory of Yuzume. Yuzume. Like number 10 Yuzume, I challenge you to a battle again. Said in front of Kazahana, who obviously didn't feel like it. Asahana. I don't feel like it, it's a lot of work, no, now I'm sober. Said turning around and starting to walk. Yuzume. I won't let you escape. Said throwing her lassos at Kazahana that never arrived as she launched a huge wall of wind that Yuzume couldn't stand having to cover herself, and Kazahana placed herself on her back, touching her mark that upon feeling it, she noticed that it was still he didn't have his wings. Kazahana. The fight is over. What are you going to do? Yuzume. Don't think you've defeated me, when I have my wings I'll defeat you. Kazahana. You seem to have a reason for doing this besides pretending to have an Ashikabi, well how about we make a deal? Yuzume. A deal? Said a little confused. Kazahana. I let you go this time, so buy me some sake. She said very excitedly. Sake. Yuzume. I think I'm an idiot for being the only serious one here. Said a little tired. Kazahana. What do you mean? Said pouting. End of memory. Dining room. Tsukiyumi. What did you say? Those two are planning to escape from Tito, she said, pulling Yuzume out of her memories to pay attention and notice that her two targets were now Issei Sekiryuutei. Musubi. Yes, that's right. Said explaining the situation to the others. Tsukiyumi. Impossible, it is impossible for the Sekiryuutei to escape from Tito. Said since it was true they could not escape while they were talking, Kazahana looked very delighted at Issei, who, upon noticing the look, gave her a warm smile that also accelerated her heartbeat. To feel something calling her to her side. Issei. Shigi said that his Sekiryuutei was very weak. He said, drawing everyone's attention. So since he wants to protect her, it is his only option, and I can understand it. I don't want anything to happen to them. If it were my case, I would do something similar. Kazahana. Wow. Are you planning to escape? Run away together hand in hand. Wonderful. She said very excitedly. Hikari. Shut your mouth, this is important. Said to make her relax, but Yuzume was thoughtful. Room 201. Matsu. Number 95 and her Ashikabi want to leave Tito. Said looking at Issei, who was there with her. Issei. That's beautiful, I'm only interested if that's possible at least. Matsu. Well, Anada, being hypothetical, if all your Sekiryuutei, me and you work together, that would be very possible. Issei. And if only I participate," said surprising Matsu. "Matsu? Anata, I know that you are very strong, but if you do it alone, it would be difficult. We know that you are afraid of losing us, but don't think that you are the only one, look." He said to start typing, an image appearing on the screen. "Issei. An island," said when he saw the image. "Matsu. Kamakura Island." The island suddenly appeared in the waters off the coast of Japan. 2 students went to check it without permission, and that's how it all began. The students found some ancient ruins there. "Issei. Ruins? What kind?" he said, thinking that perhaps they are something supernatural. "Matsu. Well, Anata, calling them ruins is not entirely correct, since they were remains that surpassed humanity. Sleeping there were life forms almost equal to humans, even their genetic structure almost equaled humans, but their vitality was much greater, and each one of them had special powers." "Issei. Those are the Sekiryūtei," said understanding without problems. "Matsu. That's right, the student who found them was from mid-bioinformatics, in other words, the president of MBI, Hiroto Manaka. He offered just a little advanced technology from the ruins to the world. Eventually MBI went to such an extent that it was capable of governing a city and became the super conglomerate we know today. All his actions have been to complete the Sekiryūtei project." "Issei. All for that project." "Matsu. It is important that the people chosen by Manaka for the project remain in Shinto Tito. Suddenly leaving the game, or even helping someone to do so, be it a Sekiryūtei or an Ashikabi, is an act of rebellion. In other words, you would make an enemy of MBI. For now, at least I would like you to know that, Anata," he said, and he didn't know what to do, since if he helped them he would become an enemy. Courtyard of Villa Izumo. Issei was reflecting, because if he fought against MBI and destroyed them, he would be considered a worldwide threat and would put his girls in danger. "Musubi. Issei-sen, we finished preparing lunch." "Issei. There aren't many options, Musubi-chan," said, and then looked at the sky. "Musubi. What?" said, not understanding. "Issei. I don't know what I should do. If we make a plan to help you, it would put you in danger." "Musubi. Her wish will come true, Issei-san," she said, and he looked at her. "I think the feelings between them form a strong bond. If they have that, there is nothing impossible in this world," she said, and Issei only thought about it a little. Unknown place. "Natsuo. Hey, I heard something interesting," he said, looking at Karasuba, who was bathing. "It seems that Azazel found a Sekiryūtei and her Ashikabi trying to escape from Tito. Isn't that something strange?" Karasuba. "And, did Blue kill them?" I asked without much interest. Natsuo. "No, he just found it interesting, so he let them go." Karasuba. "Was a good choice, considering it's Blue." Natsuo. "Do you think?" asked, very curious. Karasuba. "It'll probably get more interesting," said as she moved her hand through the bathwater. Natsuo. "I see, then I guess we can look forward to it." Karasuba. "I'm looking forward to it," said with a sharp look. Kuo story. Kuno narration. That day my world was completely white. In that memory you could see how the snow was falling under Kuno's gaze, who with his own breath was warm and his legs had some scratches, a sign that he had been hurt. Well, my hands and legs, they were getting more numb with every minute. I still had to find my Ashikabi-sama. At that point, the Sekiryūtei Kuno remembered a persecution she had from Taiga and Asuka, who, more than wanting to hurt her, seemed like they wanted to help her. Asuka. Wait. Yelled as he chased after her without even his sword drawn. Taiga. Accept our advice, just lose before us right now. Said, running at the same speed as Asuka, but as Kuno was more focused watching the two of them who were chasing her, she couldn't avoid a tile that was slightly higher than the others like this. Standing in her way, the Sekiryūtei Kuno fell straight to the ground, and Asuka and Taiga felt bad for her. "Kuno. It hurts," he said, noticing that he had scraped his ankles, starting to cry. Asuka. "Ito, are you okay?" asked, worried about the girl, but when she stood up slightly with tears in her eyes, they felt worse, but they couldn't think about it much, since Kuno gave a powerful scream that confused the two Sekiryūtei, giving her a chance of running. Taiga. She should have just accepted the advice. Said, seeing that she was no longer there. Narration. Kuno. She had no way to fight with other Sekiryūtei, the only thing she could do was cry, "I'm useless." Well, that was going through her mind. She hugged herself to keep warm and comfort herself until a voice was heard. Haruka. "Hey," he said, drawing the attention of Kuno, who was sitting on the sidewalk. Well, you've been sitting there for a while, and it looked like you were crying, so. Here," he said stiffly, a bag with hot breads, which surprised Kuno. "When you're cold, there's nothing better than this, it'll make you feel better, so eat them while they're still hot," he said while Kuno held the bag with the hot bread, fighting not to cry at such a kind act. Failed miserably. "Why are you crying?" he asked, very worried about the girl's reaction. Kuno narration. "Those meat buns were very warm, very, very warm." Haruka. See you. She said goodbye to walk away under Kuno's gaze, while her cheeks began to turn a pretty pink and her eyes couldn't stop looking at him when her heart gave a strong beat, so she hurriedly ran towards him to stop him, managing to do it, holding his scarf making him turn around strangely. Kuno. I have found you, you are my Ashikabi-sama. End of Kuno's story. Azahana. Kaya, what a great story, I take you by the scarf, that was the beginning of a little love. She said very excitedly while holding her cheeks, imagining the sweet scene. The Sekiryutei were actually made to love, weren't they? He said with great emotion to notice that Issei along with all his Sekiryutei except Matsu and Tsukiyumi who stayed in Villa Izumo agreed since he could feel a great love for all of them, and Kazuhana noticed that since being close to Issei he felt their connection. There is nothing wrong with not fighting, useless. He said while holding Kuno's hands, who became depressed. Kuno. My name is Kuno. She said very sadly, and Kazuhana separated from her. Kazuhana. The Sekiryutei were originally lovers. All the Sekiryutei on the planet, she said as she spun around the room. Haruka. Why did you bring her with you? He asked since she seemed very strange to him. Issei. Because I don't want to get away from her, and because when Musubi-chan told her that they wanted to escape from Tito, she wanted to come with us. Said a little tired about the last thing since she couldn't keep a single secret, having to erase what she knew about that he was a dragon and of Dragon Albion. Seo. Well. He said, drawing the attention of the group who looked at him with Asuka and Taiga who were sleeping a little. I understand that those children want to leave Tito, but… Haruka. Children. Said a little angry at what they called him. Seo. But why did you have to bring so many people so early in the morning? He shouted a little angry at the number of people in the place and then saw Issei who gave him a sharp look and his two gloves appeared, surprising Haruka. Kuno and Kazuhana since he had told Taki and Toyotama about it, but Seo was very scared remembering that day. Issei. Ah. Sighed tiredly as he managed to calm him down. I'm sorry to bring so many people, but they wanted to come. He said calmly while both gloves disappeared, much to the astonishment of Haruka, Kuno and Kazuhana, while Seo calmed down from the fright. Seo. Ah well, there are certainly times when I dislike the way MBI handles things. Issei. I understand, so what are you doing? I ask, somewhat curious. Seo. Yes, I will help you. Issei. I see, I'll pay you in advance. Said, throwing him 2 emeralds that he caught while he had the yen symbol in his eyes. Haruka. Why are you charging us? Said very angrily while Seo looked at the emeralds. Seo. Hey, that's why you're just a child, the world of adults doesn't move without money, look, this is worth several thousand. He said looking at his loot. Haruka. Don't call me kid. I'm almost 20 plus, are those real? Seo. Ha, I'm sure you're only in high school. He said mockingly. And yes, they are real, haha. He laughed very excited to have money. Room 202. Matsu. My Anada is very kind, that's why I love him. Said very happily, but her concern was evident. Tsukiyumi. What are you planning, Issei? Memory. Issei. The truth is I would like to help them, they just want to be together and in peace. Musubi. Yes. Let's do it, let's get them out. She said with great emotion, and Kuesu was also excited. Akitsu. I will do whatever my husband asks me to do. Hikari. Honey, you're very kind, but we love that about you. She said, and Hibiki nodded. Aki. If my teacher needs help I will always be there for you. Toyotama. Whatever my beloved Ashikabi asks for. Matsu. If that's what you want to do, Anada, then I'll help you. Issei. Thank you very much to all of you, I promise to make it up to you for this. He said, making everyone happy, although Tsukiyumi didn't say anything and looked seriously at Issei. End of memory. Tsukiyumi. Cooperate with those who don't want to fight and help them escape, I can't believe it. Matsu. I had already explained the dangers to him, he even said that he would do it alone so as not to risk us, he is very aware of the danger. Tsukiyumi. In your heart, you're not interested in this plan either, are you? She said while clenching her fists, being a little angry. Matsu. The duty of a Sekiryutei is to help her Ashikabi. Said calmly, but Tsukiyumi raised her voice. Tsukiyumi. The first duty of a Sekiryutei is to fight. You have locked yourself in a place like this, which is basically the same as not fighting. She said, leaving the room, leaving Matsu alone. Yard. After leaving room 201, Tsukiyumi sat looking at the courtyard of the house. Mia. Oh, Tsukiyumi-san. Said, arriving at the girl along with Kusano who had her penguin suit. Tsukiyumi. Landlady Dono. Said with a downcast tone, and Kusano began to hang the clothes while Mia chatted a little with Tsukiyumi. I can't help but think that Musubi, Hikari, Hibiki, Akitsu, number 03 and the rest, don't they think correctly when helping? Mia. Yufufu, maybe they don't think at all. She said, surprising Tsukiyumi who didn't understand. When someone is in trouble, you should save them, maybe it's something natural, as a person. She said, walking to the clothesline to help Kusano, and Tsukiyumi stood up. She got up upset. Tsukiyumi. But we are Sekirei. She said, very annoyed, raising her tone of voice. We have the duty to fight. Fighting is. He didn't finish as Mia spoke to him. Mia. Tsukiyumi-san, you mean it's not fair that she can run away and spend all her time with her Ashikabi? Said, and Tsukiyumi was blushing hard. Tsukiyumi. Homate dono. She said, very blushing. But maybe you're right. She said, calming down a little. The fact that number 95 is so weak is annoying, but on the other hand it's possible that she's a little envious. Mia. You aim to be the strongest, right? Said, looking at Tsukiyumi, who became serious. Tsukiyumi. At the beginning, I thought it would be possible to become the strongest without an Ashikabi, but now. She said, while remembering the determined words, how he protected her and that warm feeling she has when she is with him. Now I aim to be the stronger so I can spend the rest of my life married to Issei. She said, and Mia smiled happily at that. Ah. Don't tell Issei anything about this. She said, very nervous and blushing. Mia. It's fine, but he would be very happy to hear that. She said, returning to her activity. Then maybe I should train you too. She said, surprising Tsukiyumi. Tsukiyumi. Train me? Said, very confused. Mia. Ku-chan, please finish with the washing. She said, and Kusano nodded happily, and Mia entered the house. Come to the empty lot behind, I'll see how strong you really are. She said, and Tsukiyumi was standing there without understand. Seo Department. Seo. Tito is currently divided into 4 quadrants with the Tito Tower in its center, not counting the north. 3 areas have been marked by 3 different Ashikabis. Issei has had contact with one of them as well. Issei. Are you sure about that? I ask, a little confused. Seo. I'm talking about the guy who was after the green girl, number 43 Yomi, whom you defeated, and his Ashikabi, Hayato Mikagami. He maintains the south. The west is the territory of a certain Sonata, but I don't know much about him. I've met Higa in the east several times, but he seems to be against the Sekirei project, he said, drawing Kazuhana's attention. He even has several Ashikabi following him. He's a sneaky guy. I'll make sure he eventually makes his move. Hospital. Yuzume. And he is always very nice and thoughtful. Said, and then saw someone through the window. Taiho. What's wrong, Yuzume-chan? I ask, since I haven't finished telling her about her Ashikabi future. Yuzume. Nothing, I'm just a little thirsty. She said calmly. I'm going to get something to drink. She said, leaving the room to go to a drinks machine. What do you want? She said without seeing the man. So you lost sight of the target. It's a shame about the Sekirei, but nothing could be done. It seems like they found their Ashikabi very quickly. Yuzume. Something got in my way. Said, looking at the man in a suit who was behind her. You only have one chance. Yuzume. Understood. Said, turning away from him. Please don't forget that Higa-sama has control over your Ashikabi's life. He said, scaring Yuzume of what they could do to her friend. Excuse me. He said to calmly leave the place, and Yuzume was very bothered. Seo Department. Seo. We want to avoid entering the area they control as much as possible. Said as they discussed the plan. Issei. Hey wait, you said only 3 points. What happens to the north if you say that 3 are being controlled by those Ashikabis? What does the north have that is not being controlled? I ask, quite curious. Seo. You should know that after all, the north besides you has a terrible demon. You would be the strongest Ashikabi in the north, so I would say that they think that you control it also, he said, and Musubi spoke. Musubi. Ah, Villa Izumo is to the north, right? Villa Izumo. In the middle of the backyard, Mia was in a ready position to wait for Tsukiyumi's attack. Mia. Go ahead. Said, looking at the girl who was more than ready. Tsukiyumi. Whatever you want. He said, preparing his attack, gathering the water into a sphere that became a powerful torrent of water. Mizu Iwai. The attack continued on its way, but Mia stopped it easily, preventing him from advancing. What was it? That? She said, very surprised, still continuing her attack, that she couldn't do anything until Mia counterattacked and with a simple movement, raised a large cloud of dust. Mia. There are many holes in your defense. She said, standing almost at Tsukiyumi's side, giving a supposed final cut. Tsukiyumi-san, you also have a long way to go. She said, sheathing her sword, and when she did so, all of Tsukiyumi's clothes were destroyed, leaving her only in his underwear. You still haven't figured out how to use your power. It seems there will be many things to teach you. He said very calmly. Tsukiyumi. Mind homemade, don't know who are you? He asked himself as he covered himself and looked where Mia was, and then looked at a large hole in the floor as a result of an attack by Mia. Seo Department. Seo. So as long as we don't do anything to anger the demon, nothing will happen. The north is the best place to abandon Tito. He said with a confident smile. To the north there is a great river called Arahugawa that separates Tito from the outside. If you cross it, MBI will not be able to follow them anymore. Haruka. Do you want us to swim? Said very worried, and Kuno was afraid. Seo. Idiot, who said something about swimming? Any route such as trains, airports, docks, highways are out of the question. The ocean and rain routes are also being monitored. The only thing left is to run over a bridge. Haruka. They're inspecting the bridges. That's where. I didn't finish speaking since Seo spoke immediately. Seo. But there is an exception. There is a normal route, as well as a bridge for trains, passing side by side right here. He said, pointing to the place on his map. There is surveillance on the train tracks, but there are no inspectors. Haruka. I guess that gets one thing out of the way. Issei. I don't think that's good. If there are no inspectors, there must be something to protect the place. Seo. If there are two more problems. He said, settling down in his chair. First are the MBI surveillance satellites. If one of them catches you, everything will end after a quick laser beam from the sky. Issei. Millimeters. Either I destroy the satellite or I try to ask Matsu to disable it at least for a while, which is better. Said, and Haruka, Kuno, Seo and their Sekirei were surprised by such a thing. Haruka. How would you do that? Asked, very surprised. Issei. Well, my Matsu is very good in those types of cases, and the second thing is shooting. Said as if nothing had happened and no one understood that. Haruka. It's true, you have the most incredible Sekirei. Said, seeing everyone who was smiling proudly, but Kuno was depressed. Kuno. I'm sorry. Said with teary eyes as he pulled his Ashikabi's mage a little. Haruka. I haven't said anything yet. Said, noticing his poor Sekirei. Seo. The only thing left are the MBI dogs, the Sekirei who call themselves the disciplinary unit. Said, scaring Kuno. Issei. Yes, I guessed that something like that could be guarding the place. Seo. The Sekirei Aoi, blue, the Sekirei Kai, red, and the Sekirei Kuro, black, they are the ones who regulate the other Sekirei and are extremely dangerous. Haruka. So she is. Said, and there was great silence in the room until Musubi broke it. Musubi. I will fight with them. Said with great emotion. Issei. No. He said simply, and she looked at him confused. You must prepare. Seo. Then I will explain the plan to you. We will do it tomorrow night. Haruka. Tomorrow? Said, quite surprised and doubtful. Seo. There are 3 Ashikabis doing things secretly. There's no way MBI won't notice. He said, and Haruka lowered her head. It's better to move as soon as possible. Haruka. We'll really run away in the middle of the night. Kuno. I'm sorry. He said, drawing his Ashikabi's attention. It's because I'm very weak, it's even affecting you. He said while tears fell from his eyes. Taiga. That's why you should have followed our advice and let yourself win that time. Said while looking at the girl. Asuka. It's true, you ended up getting that boy into this mess. Said, since it was true. Musubi. But she knew him. She said, entering the conversation, and Kuno looked at her, very happy at her words. It's because you didn't give up that it's Shigi-san. He said, and she smiled happily until Haruka pinched her cheek. Haruka. It's okay. You're my girl, so she shuts her mouth and stays with me, do you understand? He asked, a little blushing, and Kuno nodded. If you understand, she stops crying. Kuno. It's okay. Said with a cute smile. Azahana. You two must be very in love. She said very excitedly when she saw the scene. The Sekirei become stronger with love. She said very excitedly while everyone looked at her. Seo. Oh, by the way, why are you with them? Asked while he had a bead of sweat on his head. Azahana. Well, somehow it ended this way. Said, stopping her emotion while giving a slight glance at Issei. Issei. You know him too, huh? Said, since he assumed that if he knew Matsu, maybe she knew him. Seo. Anyway. He said, banging the table, drawing everyone's attention. I've already received my payment. I'll say this, everyone must be sure of this. Let's go to war with MBI. He said, and everyone nodded. Azahana. Good luck, Issei. Said as she winked at him, and he smiled at her. Issei. Don't worry, we'll be fine, I'll always protect you. He said, and they all smiled happily, and Kazuhana blushed at those words, remembering something. Azahana. You never change. Said, confusing Issei, and she smiled very happily. Mind, I will always protect them, if it's you, plus you're my beloved Ashikabi, I had been waiting for you. She thought with a cute smile, and her cheeks turned a pretty pink. Villa Izumo Room 201. Haruka. Incredible. Said when she saw the room full of screens, and Issei was calm along with the others except Tsukiyumi. Matsu. I got the details of Seotan's plan by email. Said while looking at her computer. Issei. Are you sure about that, beautiful? He said as he hugged her waist, and she tensed, feeling a little excited. Whisper, I know you spy on me in the bathroom. he said and then blew a little in her ear, exciting Matsu more. Then we have to see that date, he said to get away from an excited and hot Matsu and her other sekirei, who were jealous of the hug. Matsu? Don't worry, leave it to me after all, nothing is impossible for me. She said very proudly while she had a nosebleed imagining her and Issei in a hotel room. Issei? I wouldn't expect anything less from my pretty Matsu. Said with a smile and she felt happy. Matsu? But Anada, you know that I have a time limit for which I can hack the satellites. She said and Issei nodded. It's different from how I silently hacked until now, it will be difficult to do it for more than an hour. Issei. That's enough, but I'll have to get serious, thank you very much, precious. Asahana. Listen everyone, we're ready for the party. Said entering the room, drawing everyone's attention. Issei. Party? Said very confused. Dining room. Asahana. Then cheers to your successful escape. Kampai. She said while holding a bottle full of sake. Musubi Matsu Kusano Hikari Hibiki Toyotama. Cheers. Kampai. They shouted with great excitement, but Issei was held by Akitsu and Taki who wanted to be pampered by him, and Haruka and Kuno felt a little uncomfortable, and the girls ate and drank, although Kusano only watched them drink, while Kazuhana drank 2 bottles of sake alone, and Matsu after 2 jars of beer was already drunk. Matsu? Well, now I'm going to undress. She said, being very drunk and Miya was bringing more food, so that suddenly Matsu began to harass Kuno, who was very scared. I'm going to take off your clothes. Kuno? No. Said very scared. Issei. Tomorrow is supposed to be an important day, you shouldn't drink so much. Said to one side of the party while pampering his 2 sekirei who were lying on his lap while Issei caressed their heads lovingly. Haruka. Hey Hyoudou. He said, drawing the boy's attention, who looked at him. Why don't you come with us? You know, I noticed that you love them all, just leave this ridiculous game, you probably just want a quiet life with them, right? Issei. If you're right, I want a quiet life with them by my side, but I can't, there are still some sekirei who haven't arrived. He said, surprising Haruka. I know what you think, I'll just tell you that I'm sorry about my bond with them, I still feel that way. I'm waiting for you, he said to turn his head when he noticed Tsukiyumi's presence outside the dining room. Sorry, I must go, he said to accommodate Akitsu and Taki who were asleep and go up to talk a little with his sekirei. Outside the dining room. Issei. Tsukiyumi. Said calling the girl who was about to go to her room. Tsukiyumi. What do you want? They seem to be very animated. Issei. Turn around. He said when he felt that she was a little weak and when she heard the request she tensed up. I know you're hurt, you see. Tsukiyumi. Don't worry about me. Said a little embarrassed. Issei. Silly, I'm always going to worry about my wife. He said and she smiled happily and Issei approached her starting to heal her the little he could. You know I would do the same if it were you, but I don't plan to ask or demand that you help me, I didn't want to. And none of them would participate in this, but they would not listen to me if I asked them to, but I don't want to lose any of you if something happened to them. Tsukiyumi. Issei. Said, drawing the boy's attention. Are you worried about the plan or are you worried that something will happen to us? Entrance of the house. Yuzume. I'm back. He said, entering the house, listening to everyone's laughter. It seems to be very lively here. Asahana. Welcome home. Said while hugging a bottle of sake. Why don't you come too? Yuzume. What is it? A party. She said as she took off her shoes before entering. Asahana. We are having a farewell meeting. Yuzume. A farewell? Asked confused. Asahana. Yup, a meeting to say goodbye to the 2 who are running away. Said while keeping her gaze on Yuzume who was surprised. Yuzume. I better pass. Said seriously with her eyes downcast. Asahana. Aw, that's bad. Said feigning sadness. Yuzume. See you. Said leaving the place to go up to her room. Asahana. It's not like you're doing something you want. He said without looking at the girl who was going up the stairs and she turned around. The person who made you do it, I wonder what they were looking for. Yuzume. If you bring that up here again. He said threateningly. Asahana. Oh, how scary. She said, jumping slightly. Ah, I went out to get more sake, see you. She said to say goodbye and returned to the dining room and Yuzume felt very bad. Outside the dining room. Issei. I'm afraid of not being able to protect them. He said as he lowered his head and he hugged Tsukiyumi, finishing healing her. Tsukiyumi. Issei. Said while holding Issei's hands that were hugging her. You are the one who has joined me and now you are part of me, tell me, don't you have a desire to be with me? She said in Issei's heartbeat. Great strength and this term kissing Tsukiyumi who undoubtedly deepened the kiss while Tsukiyumi's wings came out. Issei. I wish to always be by your side. Said and she smiled warmly until a voice was heard. Matsu. Ice tan. said leaving the dining room, seeing Issei and Tsukiyumi. Kazuhana brought more sake. Issei. You know I can't get drunk, right? He said, turning to look at Matsu who returned to the party and Tsukiyumi was smiling like a lover. Tsukiyumi. Then fulfill your wish and always stay by my side, if you don't, I will kill you Issei. She said with great confidence while she had a smile and a big blush and then left the place. Issei. I'll do it beautiful. Said to return to the party. Next morning. Issei was calm in his futon. He had woken up some time ago, but he was not moving since his sekirei were docile on top of him. There was even Taki and Toyotama who had a nice smile, so he would wait for everyone to wake up. Streets. Yukari. Hello brother, I haven't seen Isani-chan yet, I've been very busy these days, so I haven't been able to go see him. If I know, I'll tell him that you send him your regards. Well, we'll talk later. He said, cutting off the call. Sheena. Excuse me, I'm making you follow me everywhere. Said the sekirei, who was wearing somewhat strange clothes, very embarrassed. Yukari. It's okay, it's more important that we get number 108. Said while they were watched by Matsu and Jusa. Matsu? Tonight we make our move. Yusa. Understood Matsu-sama. Said his companion. Villa Izumo hallway. Miya. Good morning. Said looking at Kagari who was pouring water on herself to cool down. Kagari. They made a lot of noise last night. Said without turning to see Miya. Miya. You should have come too. Said while Kagari wiped her face with her towel. Kagari. I don't get enough of that at work. Said holding the towel to her face. Miya. You haven't been to work in a long time, haven't you? Said and Kagari looked at her. Kagari. Well, I haven't been feeling very well. Miya. You've started to change, haven't you? Said surprising Kagari. Kagari. What are you talking about? Said a little nervously. Miya. If you took a look at your own body I think you would understand. Kagari. That's not necessarily the case yet. Backyard. Musubi. Homemade, this is incredible. He said, seeing the hole that Miya left if she fought against Tsukiyumi. You're really very strong. He said with great emotion. I won't lose. He said, throwing a punch into the air another few more at the sides, and a strong hit to the floor destroying it a little. Musubi will protect them all. Bakari Hibiki. Hey, silly, don't forget us. Said both while launching some attacks. Akitsu. If it is for my husband I will become stronger. Said creating large spikes of ice. Toyotama. I won't be left behind. Said, launching strong and fast attacks like a martial artist. Taki. I guess I should act a little too. Said raising some small trails of fog and while they were training for tonight, Tsukiyumi was on the roof looking at the sky. Ceiling. Tsukiyumi. Said when she saw a plant that looked out and then saw how it grew and Kusano climbed it. Kusano, is something wrong? She said when she saw the little girl who walked to her to sit next to her. Kusano. Su-chan, you're not a wife. She said surprising Tsukiyumi. If you can't help with something that Ani-chan puts all her effort into, then you're not his wife. She said, angering Tsukiyumi who didn't want to hear that from her. Su-chan, you can run faster than me, but you're not trying to do anything. He said walking away, going to where his plant is but before going down he turned around to say one last thing. That's why that Su-chan is no longer his wife. He said to hug the plant and let it take it down, leaving Tsukiyumi to lie down again and just look at the sky until it got dark. Outside Villa Izumo. Musubi. A starry night like this is perfect for escaping. Toyotama. Yes, I suppose it is. Said not understanding much. Hikari. Well, honey, we have to go. Said very determined. Hibiki. Count on us darling. Said followed by his sister and Issei nodded while Taki and Akitsu hugged Issei from their arms. Issei. Mindly Tsukiyumi wait for me, I'll come back for you. He said turning around at the entrance of his home. Haruka. Haidu, you've really helped us. Said, looking at Issei, who just turned to look at him. Issei. Don't worry about that, thank me when they're outside. Haruka. Are you really sure you want to stay? Issei. If I'm sure for the moment we have to prepare. He said and his gloves appeared. Mind, let's do it Drag, Albion. Drag. Link that's how you speak Aibo show them the power of a dragon. Albion. Link now our legend begins. Issei. Well let's start Tito's escape plan. That's it guys. Thanks for watching and supporting us. See you in the next part.